you so much. You are absolutely right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. People are leaving Puerto Rico in droves.
Well, we certainly can't. Yeah, no, always asking.
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't see it.
Oh, I said trickle down.
Okay.
For the service of taking all our garbage here.
Thank you. Yes. No, I know. Thank you.
We don't have
Thank
well,
you.
well, county business, so yeah.
All right. Yes, it does. Let me.
Have agreements with the county to deposit the waste there.
Set up. Let me just.
We don't have to file garbage.
Next week or so, I can bring that up. Thank you for. Let me write that down. So I can't imagine. And the thing is,
even 50-50, you know. And if it gets out of hand, then there can be an increase on our front too. Has happened, rarely. Double win. And that's tough because you can look at your different funds. One funds that generate revenue and the other funds that don't generate revenue. Sanitation. It's just an expense. It can't make anything. Taken care of, so to speak.
Scouts.
And that comes big when we come to set the
Cell phones. Turn off the cell phone ringers. Okay.
Education. When you get the proposed budget, try to read as much of that as you can. Like this thick. I read it like a hawk every year, and we come up with a few things. But
yeah, all right.
I think
that's all they want.
So he's got a template. He just knows what needs to move one moment or another. He'll give you a list. He'll give us a list at the beginning of the process. Tell you how much this went up.
Hello.
Of course, yeah. This is always.
okay. It is 7 o'clock, and we're all here. Call the roll, please.
Mayor Mitchell,
Here.
Vice Mayor Best,
Present.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Present.
Councilman Fahet,
Here.
Councilman Vasquez.
Here.
There is a quorum present.
Okay. Let's do the invocation, and Councilwoman Jackie Bravo will lead us with the invocation.
Lord, who enlightens, thank you for every seat that has been filled here today. For each mind and heart that fills the presence of this room, we thank you. Only you truly know what we are setting out to accomplish today. We have no idea. We have an idea, a vision, and daily instructions. We have talents, abilities, and time to work. However, only you can see in perfect detail the end of every beginning, every project, every season, every life. Nothing is ever in vain, for even mistakes and missteps are used for good. Help us to be unified in making the best possible decisions and to effectively carry them out. Amen.
Amen. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. If the Scouts would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, welcome everyone to the meeting, to tonight's meeting. Our next agenda item is awards and presentations, and under agenda item 4A, we are honored to have the Boy Scouts here, Boy Scouts from Miami Springs here, and we're going to recognize new Eagle Scouts in Troop 334. Members Joel Estevez, Angel Jariel Plana, Jack Ethan Fulton, Vinay Sig Cintas, Victor Angel Vasquez Hernandez, And we're also recognizing the troop leader, Jim Fulton III, on receiving, I'm sorry, is that your son? Or is, yeah, okay. On receiving the Eagle Scouts District Award of Merit Boy Scout presentation. This is really an honor to have you here. So come on to the front and let's have a photo with all the council.
Come on, Vic Senior.
Can I move the podium?
And Boy Scouts, if you could, we'd like to hear each of you, you've done different projects for your Eagle Scout award, right? So, I'd love to learn more about them.
Come on, Jackie.
All right, I'm Jack Fulton. My Eagle Scout project was to build a dumpster enclosure at the Blessed Trinity School over there in Virginia Gardens. It was a pretty labor-intensive project, having to dig 8 separate 6 feet deep holes for the fence that we were building, and then we had to dig another set of 3 6-foot deep holes for the actual gate itself, which was a giant piece of welded metal that was graciously donated to us. So it was an overall great project. Got it done within a weekend. It was good.
That's awesome. Did you do it yourself or you had some of the other scouts helped you?
Yeah, basically
Little
everyone
help from your
here.
friends.
Oh,
Yeah, basically everyone here helped.
that's great. All right. Thank you.
My name is Bennett Siegsinthus, and my project was to implant permanent informational signs in the arboretum at my school. You see, my high school has a very large arboretum filled with native Florida plants, and for a long time, the Green Club leader, the teacher who sponsors the club, has been wanting informational signs, permanent ones, in the arboretum installed. So I collected the information on the specific plants he wanted and designed signs which we fundraised for and installed on the park. It may not have been labor intensive as the other projects that I've worked to help on, but it was very educational and helpful for the school.
That's wonderful. And what's the school name?
Jose Marti Mass,
Okay.
6th through 12th. It's in Hialeah.
Yes. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great project.
I just wanted to say good evening to you all. I'm seeing a few familiar faces here. I'm seeing completely new ones, but nonetheless, welcome. My name is Joel Esteves. I am, of course, a part of Troop 334. This past year, 2020, around, I think, August, September, was when I did my Eagle project, which consisted of building an internal wall for our meeting place, the Miami Springs Virginia Garden Optimist Club. For ever since I started scouting back in 2014, the Optimist Club was basically been our home, and so I felt like it was, it was what a scout meant to be, is to give back to, of course, the community that basically made him who he is. So I decided to help out our home. I built that wall. Basically, it acts as a sort of covering up, if you will, of our storage shed. And it sort of created this little pseudo storage closet. But most of all, it helped out the club by improving it aesthetically. And of course, it was a great addition after much feedback from community, especially from our own troop. And of course, if it weren't for these guys, all of you, if you are here or not here, they all helped in some way, be it with getting materials, be it with getting funding, or just be it there building the actual wall itself. So I like to give a good thanks to all my fellow scouts and everyone else who was able to attend. So thank you.
Wonderful. And how long did that project take?
About 2-3 months or so,
Oh my goodness.
but it was well worth it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Angel Plana. I built a sidewalk over at South Hialeah Elementary. Now, it wasn't exactly Miami Springs, but it was a little service project to give back to a community that overall didn't really like crime or just kept everyone safe, and it was generally a good school. The beneficiary representative, Robert Gonzalez, is a teacher there. He proposed that idea. I took it because I figured why not? It was better than fixing the high school, which didn't treat me so well. But anyways.
Strike that from the record.
The sidewalk is 111 feet long, 5 feet wide, so it was pretty big, about 28,000 pounds of concrete. So it was quite a project. It was kind of delayed because of the pandemic. My mentor here, my wonderful mentor, he got sick with COVID and we had to wait a bit so he can, well, not die off, but get rid of it. Honestly, it was really labor intensive. I appreciate the scouts that helped me because without them, we'd still be on paper. Other than that, it was pretty fun. I got to learn a lot about my little community, about what that school does for the kids around it. Each faculty, staff, students, everyone at that school uses a sidewalk to get home. And I figured, why not? Small little gesture. Thank you.
That's wonderful.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Vice Mayor, Councilwoman, Councilmen. I'm James Fulton. I'm the Scout Master for Troop 334 here in Miami Springs, have been for a number of years. And these young men are awesome. They have given back to this community, to the community, surrounding community as well. And they have earned their rank of Eagle. I don't baby them. They know that, and it's a tough road. But if they stay the course, then they'll make it to Eagle. So, and that's ultimately their goal. So this year we have 5 Eagles who have eagled up, including Mr. Vasquez's son, but now we have all of our younger scouts. Stand up, younger scouts. So. We have a new fresh batch of scouts that we're actually going to take off and go to summer camp in a couple of weeks. And I wanted to ask if the city has made contributions in the past to our summer camp trips, if they could make a contribution this year to our summer camp trip as well. So, and with that being said, thank you very much. And the city manager and I go way back because we built the project. We did the project together on next to the War Memorial where we do the flag retirement. So I worked very closely with Mr. Alonso on that.
That's a
project for you too.
beautiful project.
Well, that project's not going anywhere. I'm telling you, that is built solid. So
You guys got
anyway.
you got rained out today, Jim.
Oh, we did.
You're supposed to have the thing over for the flag.
Right. So, all right. Thank you all
Madam
very
Chair,
much.
if I may,
Yes, of course.
because Victor Angel, my son, is not here today. And the reason he's not here today is because his sister 3 months ago planned a trip to Disney with him because Miami Springs Senior High School was not going to have the grab bag trip. Otherwise, he would have been here. But his Eagle Scout project was with All Angels, where he spent his middle school years. And from very early on in scouting, he told me that he wanted to do a project there. And the project was to lay out a 40 by 100 foot terrace, except that the terrace tiles themselves, which were donated, which was great, anonymous donor, each weighed about 30 pounds. And so the whole project took about 7 days, which I think equaled about a month's worth of work. But it was in an area that the kids from the school were hanging out after lunch, and it had been grass, and by that time it was all dirt, and then they schlepp all that back into the school. So we're very proud of Victor for doing that. And I also want to point out that So Victor started in Pack 425, which is supported by Grace Lutheran. It's very important that we recognize both Grace Lutheran and the Scouts have been supported by the Optimist Club all those years. And I think it's important. Those two institutions have been very important in supporting Scouting here in the city. And James Fulton III is an extraordinary man. I got to know him as a friend and as a supporter of Scouting. And I'm glad I wasn't his scout because he's tough. He's tough. And they needed that. And they were successful in those projects, not the least of which from the support, the guidance, and leadership from James and the other parents, some of whom are here, assistant scoutmasters. So this was a labor of love, but it's a very important process in Scouting to earn your Eagle Scout rank. And after all the work in the years, so got some young men here who are lining up pretty soon. There'll be some other interesting projects. So in not too far future, we'll be back here with some of these young men.
I think that I can't think of a time in my life I've ever been in a room with this many Eagle Scouts. It's a credit. If you look back through history, there have been many famous men who have attained the level of Eagle in Scouting. You guys are to be commended.
Absolutely.
Right. Thank you, and you all have a good evening. Thank you
Through
very
the
much.
chair.
We still have more to say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have my own bag of funny jokes too. My husband is also an Eagle Scout, and they make great handymans. Pressure cleaning the driveway on Sunday was great. So he is excellent. So yeah, it's a lot of labor in there, a lot of skills.
Thank you.
Councilman
you.
Verhet, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, no, they know I'm very, very proud of their accomplishment as a former scout. So job well done, and obviously a model for the ones that are coming behind them.
And I just wanted to say, these are our future leaders. It's I want to piggyback on what Vice Mayor Best said. It's extraordinary the number of astronauts and congressional leaders in our country that were Eagle Scouts. So we're looking at our future leaders right here, and it's no small achievement to be an Eagle Scout, to persevere. I've heard that you're very tough, Jim, that you expect a lot of them. So it doesn't come easy. And also the projects that they've done, some of them are in Miami Springs, some are in our surrounding communities, but I'm a firm believer that by making our neighbors better, we improve ourselves, we help ourselves. So anytime that we do anything for any other community, it's something that will eventually reflect on us and make our life better too. So thank you very much for being part of our community. You're our strength. You're the backbone of our community, and especially leaders like you, Jim, that year after year take this on and are a role model for these young boys.
My payback is when I get to see the smile on their face when they've learned that they've earned the rank of Eagle. That is priceless. So for me, that's what it's all about.
Okay.
Well, thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you.
Jimmy.
And to the other scouts, we look forward to seeing you up here after you've earned your Eagles Scout in a few years.
Maybe someday soon, one or two of them will be on this dais.
I don't see why not. Okay, our next agenda item is open forum. And I just wanted to remind everyone that the purpose of the open forum is for residents to speak to the council, to be able to address the council at one time, and for it to be part of the city council meeting. However, we will not engage in conversation with anyone who attends speaks at the public forum, because it's not an agenda item. And also, I wanted to ask whoever speaks if you can keep it to about 3 minutes so that we can proceed with the meeting. So the first person on the agenda is Jennifer Llerena. And
Good
Jennifer is
evening.
on our board on our, the Ecology Board?
Ecology Board. Yeah. Good evening, Mayor Mitchell, members of the council. Thank you for giving me your time. I just wanted to come out and speak in support of the pedestrian bridge, providing safe connectivity to the metro to our residents. I feel it's a positive step in making Miami Springs more pedestrian friendly, safer, providing connectivity to our residents to other parts of the county for work and play. I also think that this is a future forward step as, of course, traffic is a problem and becomes worse and worse every year. Parking becomes more expensive. This provides a safe and effective alternative to the residents that choose to utilize it. And I think also it's just smart to provide pedestrian ways to make the community more pedestrian friendly because it puts us in the position of resilience and sustainability. And it echoes what other great villages are doing around us, South Miami, Coral Gables, and Coconut Grove. And I think they're all looking towards the future in that way too. And I feel we should be part of that movement. So I'm proud that that's something that we're looking to do, and I fully support it.
Thank you very much. All right, the next person on the agenda is Maria Perez. Is it Castillo? Castaneros.
Thank you. I wanted to publicly thank one of the officers here in the city, Officer Jordan, which was very kind and patient. On Saturday, I was underneath the overpass and I saw a turtle. I went to rescue it and I locked myself out of my car.
Oh, no.
So that started another problem, which was I called a motorist that came by to help. He called the city of Medley for me, and they said, no, you have to call Metro Dade. I called Metro Dade. They said, no, you have to call Miami Springs. The gentleman called Miami Springs for me. He said, no, you have to call Metro Dade. And the whole thing went back and forth for about a half an hour. These departments didn't know what to do with me. So that's the second part of the problem. The other issue is not only the turtle, but all the dead chickens and everything there. What is being done about all those Santeria offerings that are just left there to rot? Is anybody doing anything? Any cameras? Any officers? Anything about that? No?
Remember that we don't respond. It's for you to
Okay.
address us, okay?
All right, so
After the meeting, you can talk to the staff and or contact them and find out how you can have your questions answered.
Okay, and the other thing is the cleaning of the waterways. And that's it. Thank you
Thank
for
you
your
very
time.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, and the next person on the agenda on the open forum is Rogelio Madan. And Rogelio is on one of our boards also.
Yes.
You're on our
Planning Board and Board of Adjustment mixed together
Okay,
board.
thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I'm a third generation lifelong Miami Springs resident. I currently live and grew up in the bird section. I'm also an urban planner, and so issues related to transportation are important to me. Miami Springs prides itself on being at the center of it all due to easy access to many of the county's expressways. And these expressways are becoming increasingly congested. The 112, which used to be awesome, is now congested during rush hour, very congested. It took me 45 minutes to get home today when it used to take me 25, and now it's taking about 30, but today was really bad. I don't want to talk about the Palmetto Expressway, which is always in construction, always being widened, and every time they widen it, it just gets worse and worse and worse. So the only way out of congestion is through rapid transportation, such as Metro Rail. If you look at the south corridor of the Metro Rail, it runs through very nice neighborhoods, Coconut Grove, Coral Gables, South Miami, downtown Dadeland. 70,000 people use it every day. The trains are crowded, and it's with professionals going to their jobs downtown, wishing to avoid sitting in traffic. In Miami Springs, we have a station staring at us. It's just outside of our boundaries, but driving to it takes 15 minutes, and walking or biking to it is exceptionally dangerous. There are 3 routes if you want to bike to it. The first is the elevated pedestrian bridge near the high school, which I've used, and it involves biking down Okeechobee Road, which is incredibly dangerous. I did that once. I almost got hit 3 times by people rushing out of the motels because they didn't want to be seen, I assume. Crossing Okeechobee Road at West 12th Avenue, that's not fun either. Okeechobee Road is very dangerous for pedestrians, and we are in the most dangerous state for pedestrians. or illegally crossing the FEC Railroad Bridge. We all pay taxes to Miami-Dade County to sustain Metro Rail, yet our access is very limited, even though the tracks run at the edge of our city. I like to take Metro Rail and ride my bike downtown on weekends. When I work downtown, I used to take the train to go downtown and skip traffic. And when there are events downtown, heat games or whatever, I like to use the train as well. Now that I work in Miami Beach, I'm hopeful that in the future I'll be able to take the Metro Rail once the Beach Link is built, which is a project that's moving forward at the county. So building a pedestrian bridge that would connect our amazing bicycle network to the Metro Rail is a no-brainer, and it would greatly benefit Miami Springs residents. It would also allow our circulator bus to be useful by connecting it to the Metro Rail, making the loops faster, and it wouldn't have to travel all the way through Hialeah to get to the Metro Rail the way it does today. I've heard there's concerns with security, but if somebody's stealing a TV, I don't think they're going to run across the bridge with stolen goods. If they were, I don't think they would care about trespassing, and they would probably use the FEC bridge too. We already have 2 pedestrian bridges to Hialeah, and the Circle and the one at the high school. I haven't heard of any issues related to crime, so I think issues related to crime are a little unfounded. However, if I'm wrong and the issues were to arise in the future, they could install a gate that locks automatically when the Metro Rail shuts down, and the bridge couldn't be used after those hours if there are issues, but I don't think they will be. So in conclusion, please support increasing mobility options for our city so that we're not condemned to be stuck in traffic, and please support the pedestrian bridge, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for service on the board. Okay, that ends the open forum. And our next agenda item is the approval of the council minutes from May 24th meeting.
Through the chair, motion to move 6A.
Second.
Call the roll. Call the vote, sorry.
Vice Mayor Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bravo.
Yes.
Councilman Fahet.
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next agenda item is reports from boards and commissions, and we have none. Public hearings, item 8, agenda item 8, we have none. Now we have item 9, the consent agenda.
This is a recommendation by the city manager that council waive the competitive bid procurement requirements of the city code pursuant to section 31-11 E6G of the city code, and authorize the issuance of a change order to Stonehenge Construction LLC for the concrete pad project in an amount not to exceed $28,490, as being in the best interest of the city, as utilizing a competitive bid, sealed bid process is not practical. The city has previously engaged contractor to perform the Princefield Drainage Improvements projects, which is currently going on, and is more efficient in the city's best interest for the contractor to perform the concrete pad project while performing the drainage project. Funding for the project will come from the contingency funds left over from the senior center construction project.
Thank you, Tammy. Accept a motion or a question? Do you
I have a question.
Okay.
Just for clarification, because
Yeah.
I was looking at the drawing of this. These pads are right next to, adjacent to the seating for where folks go to watch the games. Is that what it is?
Yes,
On each
sir.
side of that, so it extends that side? Okay.
Yes.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Through the chair, motion to move 9A.
Second.
Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bravo.
Yes.
Councilman Fahet.
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez.
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Old business, item 10, there is none. New business item, agenda item 11, we have several items. The first one is an ordinance, the first reading.
Let me get this one.
This is an ordinance of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, dissolving the Code Review Board, the Memorial Committee, and the Golf and Country Club Advisory Boards by repealing Articles 3, 4, and 9 and 14 of Chapter 32, Boards, Commissions, Committees of the City's Code of Ordinances, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for clarification, and providing for an effective date. It's a memo on the record from Heidi. I guess Heidi's gonna.
No worries. This was This is an ordinance that we have discussed over the last several meetings. Tonight's hearing is not a public hearing, but you're welcome to discuss if you'd like. We had previously discussed dissolving 4 boards, the Code Review Board, the Memorial Committee, and the Golf and Country Club Advisory Board, as well as the Architectural Review Board. After speaking with Councilwoman Bravo, my recommendation was that at this time we not dissolve the Architectural Review Board because there is pending state legislation. That my concern is that if we were to eliminate that board now, it could not be in our best interest. So we decided, working with Councilwoman Bravo, that we would just stick to the 3 boards, and that's based on all of the discussion that we've had over the last several months, as well as everything that's in the cover memo. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and I don't know if Councilwoman Bravo wants to say anything. I think this started as Mayor Mitchell's initiative, and then I think Councilwoman Bravo, after looking at it, after it was brought to you last time on first reading with all 4 boards as well as some other revisions, felt that we could bring this back in a different format. So that's what's before you tonight.
Motion? Do you want to discuss it or motion to
Yeah,
move?
no, I'd like to discuss it.
Okay.
As all my colleagues are aware, I kind of stood pretty hard on this last time we met. Stood hard on it before that. I applaud Mayor Mitchell for bringing it up at her first meeting, actually, for this to be discussed. But I don't think she went in with an agenda. She just went in to see what the feeling was. As I said at the last meeting, and I'm going to reiterate again tonight, I've thought about this a lot in the last 2 weeks. I've talked to a lot of people, some that are on the boards that are slated to be removed. Having just heard the gentleman speak so eloquently earlier, as a member of one of the boards, these are the kind of people that you're eliminating from the city in terms of people that feed us information. Again, what are we doing? And I'm going to make the same point that I made 2 weeks ago tonight and ask your consideration before we vote on this. The Code Review Board, if you go through that code of ordinances in the city of Miami Springs, which is about 5 inches thick, 4.5, Erica-ish, and just go through it all and just look at all the stuff that is so unapplicable and needs to be cleaned up. And here we are eliminating the board that's supposed to be looking after this. That's one. Number 2, as I mentioned before, it is in fact our responsibility to feed these boards with information for them to work and to get back to us in an advisory capacity. That's what they exist for. I know that it was stated, and some research was done by Councilwoman Bravo, relative to when some of these boards had last met. But what I did not bring up 2 weeks ago, and I thought about it during the impasse, is that the pandemic has ate up about 16 of those months. So whatever amount of time they hadn't met for, you got to take 16 months off. So I did not mention that 2 weeks ago. The other thing is, relative to the Golf and Country Club, and I did make this point 2 weeks ago, I'll make it again. We've got a good situation going on there right now. We've got an excellent director. We've got a good turf master. We've got a great other side of the operation going there with Patrick Kamesh with the Country Club. And everything seems to be going full tilt right now. But what if it stops? What if something happens? We have probably one of the best boards that we're in the midst of a few minutes from now possibly eliminating. You have some of the best people in town that have advised us over the years. I've sat up here for a few of those years and heard what some of these people have brought to us. And it has really saved our bacon on more than one occasion. Finally, the Memorial Committee, I don't think they've ever met, maybe once or twice on probably a restoration, probably the Geiger Memorial. But now we've got the War Memorial, that there's a certain group, American Legion specifically here in town, that is getting ready to engage in a major project in the restoration of that memorial. And we want to eliminate them. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we really need to give this some consideration. Now, I know that some of the alternatives were offered. Well, we can always bring them back as an ad hoc committee or something. Well, you're going to take the wind out of their sails by eliminating the board, and chances are you're not going to get that kind of chemistry back again if you do if we do eliminate them tonight. I caution us to think about how we vote on this tonight, and for the sake of the city. It's not me. I'm speaking what residents have told me, and also how I personally feel about it. But I don't think there's any reason for us to act so hastily on this. And I thank you for my time, Mayor.
Let's, I guess we should do a motion first, right? Before we're discussing it, let's do a motion to pass it, and then we can discuss it and then vote on it. Is there a motion to?
I move to dissolve the code review memorial and golf and country club
Motion
advisory board.
to accept this ordinance.
Accept this.
The motion would be
ordinance.
a motion to approve the ordinance on first
yes.
reading.
Motion to approve the ordinance to dissolve the
And I need
various boards.
a
And
second.
you need a second.
And then we'll discuss it.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's continue with the discussion now. Sorry.
Sure.
Okay. Sorry.
All right.
I wanted to address. I've been thinking about this. I was specifically I was thinking about the Golf and Country Club Advisory Board. Now, I'm not a golfer, so I wouldn't add anything either way. But it seemed to me we heard Paul here several weeks back talk about the work that's going to be done in the golf course, and then the subsequent work that has to be done in the clubhouse. There's going to be a centennial celebration, I hope, and that would be a good time to have. I don't know the individuals on the advisory board, but if they are of the caliber that Bob has mentioned, then I would ask we reconsider sunsetting that board in particular. Last week I was at an event at a local congresswoman's office. It was a community event, and someone heard me say, when everyone introduced himself, I'm a councilman in Miami Springs, and the guy comes over to me and he says, I live in, I think it's in Boston, and he says, I come down here twice a month to play golf in Miami Springs because it's a PGA course, and that got me thinking. And so I don't have much else to say on the other boards, but I'm pretty concerned about this one in particular.
I just want to reiterate what we're talking about here is some 3 boards that have not met in over 5 years. So as council people get appointed, we appoint new people to the boards. There's no real cohesion of this board because they haven't met, or they've met once in the past, once or twice in the past 5 years. And Councilman Best is correct in saying that if we're not giving them work to do, they have no reason to meet. But that was discussed 4 years ago when we had a workshop on the boards, and we agreed as a council we were going to give them work to do. And 4 years went by, and they still. So the whole what Councilwoman Bravo has brought up after researching it is the boards that haven't met, for 4 or 5 years. Do we keep appointing someone to the board and saying, by the way, they didn't ever meet, but we're just going to appoint you just in case by the time we do need them to meet or something similar? Isn't it better to appoint a task force or a committee to discuss that specific issue than just to have this pending board that even if they were to be called together, they'd say, well, you haven't called me in 3 years. I'm no longer in the Springs. We don't even know if they're still even here. Councilwoman Bravo?
Through the chair. Yeah.
Yes.
I would like to work closer with Paul, which is the department head of the Golf and Country Club, and really sit down with him and see what it is that he needs. I mean, I think we could get more done. I mean, at the end of the day, the boards have to come to us. And if we can work a little bit closer with our department heads, they're going to give us that true feedback. They're there every day. They're on site. They're interacting with their consumers, whether they're local or non-local. Nobody better than Paul is going to know what the country club needs. Now, will he need a committee to maybe help him with some projects to get some things done? Sure. He's one person. But if I need to get some immediate feedback, I want it from the department head himself, and maybe as Omer comes here a lot too, and he comes with some of his staff members. It's a team effort. They come and they discuss what their needs or their wants are, and then we see how we can make it happen for them. I don't think that we need to have an open board just to see we have an open board. I mean, Coral Gables doesn't even have a Golf and Country Club advisory board, and they have a huge golf course. I'm saying, I mean, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying I don't see what the purpose of having open boards and appointing people when we're really not using them. I think at that point, we need somebody, we'll get it fresh. Like, we'll activate the committee. We use them for the purpose. We take care of the project and we're done. But it takes a lot of time and effort to, like, every time now that I'm getting into council, to sit down and overview resumes or applications and see who should sit on the board. And I think whoever's going to serve us is and they're available, we could call them. And if they're not, then we just start calling down the list. But that was just me. I mean, they opened up, their first meeting was in 1997. Their
Who?
last meeting was in 2017.
Which board?
The Golf and Country Club.
Okay.
They've been around since 1997 and they've met 23 times. If they were to meet usually the second Wednesday of every month, they'd have over 132 meetings, and we have a total of 23. So that's why I suggested the dissolving of the board.
And I want to clarify, this is not to, by any means, we have several boards in the city. And in fact, we had two speakers on from two of our boards today that are active boards and, working, and we greatly appreciate their service and their dedication. We're talking about boards that have been basically dormant for several years.
May I? Thank you, Mayor. So I spoke with Paul O'Dell after the last meeting where we discussed this. I think Councilman Best was on board, with the exception the one that was kind of giving him trouble in terms of wanting to do it was the Golf and Country Club board, because I mean the other ones, the Memorial Committee, I think hadn't met twice since 1985, and right, so it's not even a question of taking the wind out of anybody's sails or like diminishing chemistry between those folks. And again, I mean, like, we're talking about eliminating them, like, we're just dissolving the board because of inactivity. Where we appreciate what the residents are doing, we appreciate them, and we appreciate their willingness to serve. And I think we spoke last time about the fact that you could, by the time, if something were to come up that you need somebody when these have been dormant for so long, you might as well be doing an ad hoc committee, because those people may not even still be willing to do it. And so I think it's just efficient. And I did speak with Paul, and Paul mentioned that the reason they haven't met in 4 years is that there was a time where the golf course was hemorrhaging money, and the leadership wasn't quite what it is now, and he feels very comfortable with his staff and what they've done, and that we're the third ranked golf course in the county, and we've turned a profit for the first time. And he felt that the advisory board for the Golf and Country Club stopped meeting 4 years ago because they felt there wasn't a need, because things had gotten turned around. So I didn't get the sense from, I don't want to directly quote him, but I really didn't get the sense from him that it was a problem to do away with this board, because I spoke to him directly for particularly this reason. So I'm in favor of moving forward on these.
Through the chair, Councilman Vahet, you are aware that the golf course is still hemorrhaging. So to eliminate an oversight committee that can offer additional information that could assist us going into the budget process, that had we asked them, or do we ask them to meet, to offer us information that we might make improvements, rather than just kind of stick our heads in the sand and not be responsible. I look at it in a way, by not telling them what we want them to discuss and get back to us, do some research for us. They work for us. But just eliminating them, I don't get it. I don't. And if you want to be, and this particular first reading of this ordinance isn't even consistent in nature, because you have some other boards that are of no value whatsoever. They're still on the books, and we want to eliminate these three. Don't get it.
Through the chair, I think there's certain boards that we can't eliminate.
I understand the architectural review. That's taken on legal advice. I understand that.
And the recreation board too, I believe. Through the chair, if you don't mind. I don't mean to pressure this. I don't see what the uses of going to look for my board members to bring me my problems. They should already be out there working the whatever it is that they do, and bring it to us to council. I don't think we're here to give them homework, because I don't know what's going on over there.
Well, how do they get direction then if we don't give it to them?
Through staff.
They supposed to make up their own agenda?
The department head, through Paul. Who do they meet up with?
The department heads are generally present at the meetings.
It should be, the council for the most part, and there's some boards that have agenda because of the nature of,
Right.
of issues that are going on in the city that then they appeal to these boards, or they have to, residents have to be present in front of these boards. But some of these other boards that we're talking about, they were created for a reason. Evidently, somewhere along the line, that reason stopped existing, and so they stopped meeting. And it is for these boards that we're talking about, it is incumbent upon us to give them direction as to what we want them to provide us with, what information, and we haven't done that. And I can give the example, which I think I gave before, of the Architectural Review Board when we were talking about the downtown, what is it called, Town Center, One Curtis Parkway project. I wanted to run it by the Architectural Review Board. I felt like we have a board. That's what the rest of the council didn't feel that was necessary, because they said they haven't met in so long, it would be useless to run it through them. Then what is the purpose of having the board if, when something does come up, we're not willing to give it to them because the board hasn't been meeting? And I understand that if the board hasn't been meeting consistently, they're not going to have that knowledge of each other or work efficiently and productively.
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
I think, and I know that Councilman Best feels as strongly about it. I think, there's some subjectivity in this in terms of what you think is important or not. And I think this is our third time discussing this. I don't know that anybody's going to change their minds. I mean, you've got a motion and a second. If you feel comfortable calling the vote, I mean, I think however it lands is how it's
give
going to.
everyone a chance to discuss their feelings. Yes, go ahead.
And I don't know. So maybe it's not the appropriate time to ask the question, but it's been raised several times about providing leadership to boards and committees and so forth. I'm just not clear. How has that been in the past? How has it been done? And I'm talking about maybe Mr. Alonso been here a little longer. I don't know. Is the expectation that the city council gives direction to the boards and the committees and so forth, the advisory councils? Is there a procedural way of doing that? I'm just not clear. That's why I asked.
No, as Mayor Mitchell said, what's happened in the past is that past councils haven't given any of these boards an agenda or items that they want to look at and bring back recommendations to council. So most of these boards go out on their own and set their own agendas.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened in the past. In the case of the Gulf Country Club Advisory Board, I agree. That was set up originally because there was a problem with the golf course and the country club operation. And they haven't met since 2017 because, as was mentioned before, most of those problems were solved. Yes, the golf course has always lost money. This is the first year where in the first 6 months of the year, because of the COVID and all that, people wanted to play golf. So we actually didn't lose money for the first 6 months. And we're probably going to have a good year this fiscal year. And they're already budgeting a good year for next year. So that's part of the reason why the golf. And as I mentioned before, this is the first time that we actually have a manager, a golf operator that's experienced and knows what they're doing. In the past, we've dealt with management companies and such, and that's one of the reasons why this board was set up. So, the procedure is at a council meeting, you can make a motion, say, I want the Parks and Parkways Board to look at this issue and bring back a recommendation. That's the process.
Through the
And
chair.
then the city clerk would set that on their agenda for their next meeting.
Yes, Councilman.
It might be helpful outside of this motion, but it might be helpful, and I would probably make the request to Mr. Alonso for an agenda item to discuss how best the council can provide this. What kind of procedure should we follow on these boards?
Okay, let's make clear,
Yeah, no, I'm just-
there are boards that are already functioning, and we have several very active boards, and they have their process and their functioning. The boards that are under discussion are just ones that have been dormant for very many years. So we're not talking about or discussing eliminating any of the very active and useful boards that we do have. And we very much appreciate the residents' service on those boards.
There are what we call blue boards, like the adjustment, zoning, like that. And there's
Ecology, the
they're
parks,
pseudo judicial in nature and quasi judicial, I should say, and they coordinate with the city on the items, and the items are basically given to them by the city to adjudicate. So that's how those work, and
But
they're
there's
in
also
place
the
for that reason.
educational advisory, the ecology, the parks board. We have several other boards that
Correct.
meet regularly. And okay, I think we discussed this before, Heidi, and I'm not sure. Is it possible to make these boards dormant and not eliminate them per se, and just say that they're dormant so that our city staff has work? Correct me if I'm wrong, Erica, but there's work involved in your managing these boards, even though they don't exist, right?
Yes,
And your
yeah.
staff. So, I mean, we're also talking about creating new boards, which by eliminating these boards, it frees up the city clerk's staff time to work on new boards, which are currently, I think we've all deemed that are important to have functioning now and to create. So, but could you clarify that? Is it possible just to make these dormant so that it doesn't take any city staff time, and we don't appoint anyone to them unless they need to be resuscitated?
The way that it's in your code, you have it codified. So it's not as easy as, say, a board that's created by resolution that you can just pass a simple resolution, which my recommendation in general is to have these boards created via resolution in general. That's a broad statement. Simply because you can move more quickly. It doesn't require 2 readings. So I think that if in the event you felt you needed the Golf and Country Club advisory board because there's a specific issue that you want the board's input on, then you can very quickly
Create it through an ordinance.
through a resolution.
Through a resolution. Okay. Yeah. So Councilman Best, that is a possibility that we would end it as this, so it would eliminate the staff time involved with, managing these boards or the housekeeping related to these boards. And then if we need to resurrect it, we would resurrect it as a resolution.
Mayor, I see what you're trying to do here. However, it's still in my mind, it's still like the attorney just said, it's still a codification issue. And if it's decodified or removed, then you still got to go through the process. I have a problem understanding why the clerk's office would have any additional work if the boards aren't even meeting.
I think, Mayor, if I can add, as far as the codification, yes, if we are eliminating the board, this will be removed from the code. My prior remarks were to explain that if you wanted to have any board created, you could simply do so by resolution. It doesn't need to go through a codification process. So it becomes much simpler and frankly more efficient for the city to operate. As far as the clerk's office, what the mayor was addressing, I believe, is that the clerk's office, every time you all are elected, her office has to reach out to each of you and seek your appointments to all of these boards. And so not only are you undergoing the task of having to review several resumes and potential individuals to sit on these boards, so there's that time. But aside from that, it's the time of noticing the meetings because they do have to be publicly noticed. Staff does need to be present. Staff has to take minutes.
If they're meeting.
So, correct. And so as far as the actual, the meetings, I think part of what's also helpful with doing it by resolution is that you can very specifically say to these boards what you want. And so I think this goes to Councilman Vasquez's question of how do the boards get, how do they know what to do? You have another item on this agenda this evening that specifically tells the boards, this other board, what to do and what your expectations are. And so once they finish that task, they can move on to the next task. So it's just, you're not using up your resources of the volunteers who are giving their time to help the city by tying them up on one board and then not being able to have them serve on a separate board. And just to get ahead of the question, since it's going to be coming up in a few weeks, hopefully at the next council meeting, there is a board that we've discussed, which is the Nuisance Abatement Board, which we will be hopefully bringing to you at the next June meeting. And that board will be codified, but that is because of a statute. It's a statutory board that we would be creating to deal with very specific issues. So that will be different, but there is a legal reason for having that codified. So these other boards that are simply providing you with advice and feedback and recommendations, there's really not a need to have it as an ordinance. So I hope that that sort of answers multiple questions.
All right, let's call the roll.
Vice Mayor
The
Best?
vote, sorry.
The motion is to approve the ordinance. Sorry, just to clarify.
You vote?
Vice Mayor Best?
Nay.
Councilwoman Bravo?
Yes.
Councilman Behet?
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez?
No.
Mayor Mitchell?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, item 11B, a resolution of the City of Miami Springs establishing rates for collection of garbage, trash, and recycling for commercial and residential customers.
Yes. Recommendation is in accordance with Resolution 2009-3448. The administration requests approval of a 1.4% increase in sanitation and recycling fees, which is the fiscal year 1920 increase of 0.29% assessed by the county for disposal and recycling fees, as well as an additional 1.11% to cover increased operating costs. During September 2020, the city received notice from Miami-Dade Solid Waste Management, which is attachment A, that their disposal and recycling fees will both increase by 0.29% effective October 1st, 2020. The CPI for March of 2021 in Miami-Dade is at 1.4%. We recommend the increase of 1.4% for the next fiscal year in order to cover the county, not only the county increase, as well as increases in operating costs for the department. Since the city includes the annual sanitation charges on the property tax bills, it was too late to make any changes for the tax bills that were mailed out in October of 2020. We are hereby requesting approval of the new fee, which will be included in the tax bills that will be mailed out in October 2021. The current annual sanitation recycling fee is $672.72. The new fee will be $682.14. This increase represents about 78 cents a month to a single-family residential customer. Multifamily dwellings will go from the current $18.94 per unit to $19.21 per unit. And then I have listed there a few years and history of the increases over those years. In accordance with paragraph C, annual cost of living adjustments in the rate chart approved under Resolution 2009-3448 by Council, as well as the additional increase for operating costs, the administration requests approval to increase the sanitation rate from the current $53.18 per month to $53.92 per month, and our recycling fee from $288 per month to $292 per month, effective October 1st, 2021. Council approves this increase. We're attaching the required resolution for approval. Fiscal impact, this increase represents approximately $34,653 in additional revenues that will offset the increased costs from the county's increase, as well as increased operating costs of the operation. And for the new members of council, this is something we do around this time every year. Because as I mentioned, for example, the rate increase for next year will get in September, but by that time it's too late to include in the tax bill for this year, so that's why we're always a year behind.
And through the chair, there seems to be in your data, William, that you offered us, there seems to be a surge like every 3 years, doesn't there? Relative to the larger percentages of increase.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that the cost, the CPI that we're going to get in September is going to be a lot higher than 0.29.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to move the item, Mayor.
Second? Call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Best,
Aye.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Behet,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez, Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 11C, a resolution from the City Council approving a second extension of the lease agreement with Westward Partners for the Police Department substation. This is the police community.
CPO
CPO
office.
office,
CPO
the
office.
renewal of the lease for the CPO office.
Okay.
You want me to read into?
Read the rest
Yes,
of it.
please.
This is a recommendation by the police department that council waive the competitive bid process and approve an expenditure to Westward Partners LLC an amount of $20,940 for the building rental of these, as these funds qualify for the expenditure from the Police Law Enforcement Trust Fund, pursuant to Section 31E6G of the City Code and pursuant to the contract renewal option provided by the city's existing contract under the 12-month period.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Best,
Aye.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Behet,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez, Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 11D, resolution providing for the third amendment to fiscal year 2020 general fund and stormwater enterprise fund budgets.
This is a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, providing for the third amendment to the fiscal year 2021 general fund and stormwater enterprise fund budgets to record the FEMA funding to pay the cost of the COVID-19 vaccination sites and to record the cost of the Oakwood Stafford Park Stormwater Project and providing for an effective date. This is generally a housekeeping matter. These two items have already been brought to council before, and the expenditures were approved. So this is just to amend the budget to account for these two.
Okay, and we're getting reimbursed from FEMA.
We already
got the reimbursement.
yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you again. I want to again commend our city manager and staff for, they are very prompt at applying for reimbursement from FEMA and other things. And we're way ahead of the curve on other cities on that. Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to move, Mayor.
Second? Any discussion? Call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Best,
Aye.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Behet,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez, Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 11D.
All right, this is a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, establishing the Business and Economic Development Task Force, providing for authorization and providing for an effective date.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion. I think this is definitely needed. We've discussed this before, and I would like to, as part of this, is decide when we have to appoint, if the motion carries, when we're going to appoint, by when, so that by when we're going to appoint the two members. One thing that I had a question with is we had talked about appointing two members from the council, each of us, at our discretion. But that would mean that we don't have a voting majority. So how do you suggest we handle that, Heidi? So for voting purposes, because we're going to have 10 members. The resolution. So I think that that's something. And I was wondering, is it possible for the city manager to appoint someone?
You can do that. You can also have
one of us
the
appoint
mayor
a third.
appoint a third.
Okay.
You can have. I know we have a provision for non-voting members, but yeah, you can increase the size of the board to 11 voting members and make it a simple. Each council member shall appoint 2 individuals to the task force, and the mayor shall appoint 3.
Okay.
Or the manager will appoint someone.
Okay. How about? Is that acceptable to everyone? I'll appoint 3
Yeah.
the mayor, and I'll probably use the manager's input discretion at, yes, at appointing that, something from the city to help move the committee. The other thing I wanted to mention on that is that I think we need a line in there saying that the city will provide the resources necessary, the staffing resources and support services necessary for the board, or is that understood? I know we said that the city clerk's office will have someone present at all the meetings to take minutes and facilitate communication with the council or whatever's needed, but do we need to include something in that, the city's?
It's understood, but if you feel more comfortable including it, we can include it. It's not a problem.
Yeah, we provide the service for all
okay.
boards.
So I just want to make sure that the board doesn't feel like they're treading water on their own and
No.
there's no.
Not at all.
Okay. Did we take a motion?
We have a
Yes,
first and a second.
Sorry,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Any other discussion? on
Mayor,
this?
I think you were, when we spoke, you wanted to know about, right now, the way that the resolution is set up is that the board has to provide a report to you within 12 months from the date that this resolution is adopted. So depending on when you appoint and get your members on board, and realizing that it is the summer months and maybe, I don't know if you want them to start meeting in July, if you want them to start meeting in August. I don't know if you want to provide, from 12 months from the date they first meet or something else. No, please go ahead.
I have a question. So I think this is a very good point. Going back to my original, I would have prepared myself out of order talking about policies and procedures, because I think this might be an appropriate moment when bringing this board together to give them some direction from the whole city council. I think it should be done from all of them, but and so I think that there's the calendar is not on our side in that regard to get started quickly, but I'd rather see it sooner than later because we don't meet in July.
Okay. And I think Councilman Vasquez, what our city attorney was saying is that because we're creating a resolution, we have actually put in the resolution, their purpose for meeting is to attract, to give us recommendations on how to attract new businesses to the city and assist the existing businesses, and also to give us vision as to, what direction our city should be heading as far as improving our business and economic development. So that's part of the
resolution.
Yes, of the resolution is that direction. But as far as when we want them to start meeting, I think that's an important, because we are in the summer. Asking them to meet in July is unrealistic. If we want them to start meeting, say within 45 days of signing this, or 60 days of signing this resolution, or by a month, if we say perhaps by
Maybe no later than September 1st.
or in
Through the chair.
September.
Okay with that.
Through the chair. I think we should have summer pass us by. Everybody settles back in September. Kids are back on school, and our volunteers or whoever we appoint, we can really focus. And then I think starting in September would be
Okay,
right,
so let's say a
and we're-
meeting in September. Their first meeting will be in September. How's that? And that gives all of us time to wiggle room to find members of the community or of the business community or residents that we think would be, pardon me?
For a couple of non-residents. Resolution 6.
Yes, yes. Now, outside of the city, though, they're not voting
Correct.
members. If we
Correct.
appoint, even if that's a business owner who lives outside of the city and owns a business in Miami Springs, they would be a non-voting member according to our, okay. Because that's part of
Not a resident, your charter.
our
limits it.
charter. It's not something that we can change in the ordinance, okay?
Just a question for, I can make these changes if the resolution passes with all of these things I'm taking notes of. As far as when the report would be due, then if they begin meeting in September, I can update that to be that they provide the report.
365 days or 1 year from,
I can just put it on or before 12 months,
Okay.
on or before September October 1st, 2022. And that way it's sort of consistent with your timeline if they're starting to meet in September.
Okay, and that they will meet, and I know that's on here, that they'll meet monthly or as often as determined by the chair, and they'll select the chairperson
Correct.
during their first meeting.
And to the point of it sounded like Councilman Vasquez sort of was considering sort of having an orientation for the board as to what they might be doing.
I'm still on that procedure piece, but
I
sort of inclined that I don't know.
I think we could handle that by us being at the meeting, at the
Right.
first meeting. How's
Yeah.
that?
That's
That if we want to attend the first meeting, then that would be not violate the sunshine law because we can say that we're going to be at that meeting and, okay, so let's do that. Okay, so any other discussion? Vice Mayor?
The task force, Mayor.
Do you have anything?
No, I can't buy into this. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Okay.
Mayor, and the
yes.
task force dissolved after the 12 months. according to the
Well, I
resolution.
think the way the resolution is written is it's for 12 months, but we have the ability to extend it if we deem.
It says it shall exist for 12 months or until the task force delivers its written report.
whichever
So
comes first,
It
provided
seems
that
like it's 12 months unless we choose to end it earlier.
Okay. Ended earlier. Do we have the ability to extend it should?
absolutely
pass?
you can dissolve or extend it at your discretion. That section 8, we would amend it so that it's consistent with the time frame for when the report would be due. So it would be that the task force shall exist for until
Well, I think for a year we've agreed to, but should for some reason they ask us to extend them, another 6 months or something, I'd like to have that ability to do that.
you absolutely have that discretion.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, great.
Heidi,
The clerk's office did, the clerk just reminded me, there is in section 5, there's a provision that at the first meeting of the task force, the members would elect a chair and vice chair, but it also provides for a secretary. We would recommend eliminating that because the clerk's office will serve in that secretarial role of taking the minutes.
Yes.
Heidi, I had asked you before, I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but can a member of another board also serve on this task force?
I believe your code has a prohibition on serving on 2 boards at the same time, which
I
also
didn't-
goes to the
You
reason
have
why.
told me that, but I can't find it.
I looked at
Yeah,
it
I
today,
think
William.
it's
That's correct.
in
Does
the
a
code
task
or the
force
charter.
count as a board?
Yeah, it's
Definition,
it's
I
either
think.
in your charter or your code
It's there.
that you can't serve on 2 boards. If you give me a minute, I can pull it up.
Councilman had the question of, does the task force count as an advisory board? As far as that, of serving on 2 boards?
It would.
Okay. So by freeing up these other board members that we've appointed, that opens up the pool for them to, for them to serve on this board, if we so desire to appoint them.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Yeah, and I assume that if there are members on other boards who any of us would consider, they can always resign.
Yes.
And if they became a part of this board, that would be understood as a resignation from the board.
Yes, and then you would appoint someone new to replace them on that board.
Or whoever.
Okay. All right. Any other
So-
discussion? Call the vote,
Just,
please.
just so that we're
Oh,
clear
sorry.
for what we're voting on. So it would be a resolution to approve it with the modifications that the mayor would have 3 appointments to the board. The board would begin meeting in September, no later than September of this year, and deliver their report by no later than September of 2022. And then they would dissolve. They can provide their report earlier, of course. And then we're going to eliminate the secretary from the officers.
Do you need to put in there that city clerk staff will
I can add
be
that, sure.
at their meetings?
Through the chair, one question for Heidi. Are we still doing the 10 voting members or we're coming down to an
No.
odd number?
It's 11 because
It's 11?
It's going to
she's
be
appointing
11,
3.
yeah,
The
11
mayor's appointing
members.
3.
Right. 11 members of the board with 3 appointments. All of you will have 2 appointments, except the mayor will have 3.
Okay. And I am letting you know that my 3rd appointment will be something that I discussed with the city manager to find someone that that their staff feels would be helpful
with that, Mayor.
on this board.
Okay. So those will be the changes that you'll see in the resolution.
Thank you, Andy.
All right, great. Call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Best,
Nay.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez, Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next agenda item is resolution, under new business, resolution F.
This is a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, authorizing the demolition of the structure located at 4545 Northwest 36th Street, folio number 05-3120-030-0130, consistent with the order of the Miami-Dade County Unsafe Structures Board, selecting Demolition Masters, Inc. to demolish the structure and secure the property in an amount not to exceed $15,886, authorizing the negotiation and execution of a demolition contract, authorizing the city attorney to initiate a lawsuit to foreclose the city's interest in the property, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion.
Just clear on something. The way I understand it is, we're going to do the demolition. We're going to put a lien to get that money back. I mean, I remember the judgments that came down before, whether they had to do this within 30 days unless otherwise then we would move forward.
Right,
And then
correct.
agreement-wise,
There's already
idea when we get reimbursed.
It's going to be a while.
I-
And this is, we're asking for your authorization today. The deadline is this Friday for the property owner to take the action required by the Unsafe Structures Board. If they don't, then we want the authority to be able to proceed with the demolition and thereafter placing the special assessment lien and then following through with a foreclosure to recuperate the city's funds.
Through the chair, a question for the city manager. Should they not meet the deadline by Friday, which it doesn't seem like they will, what's a timeline that I can tell residents that the eyesore will be demolished? A loose timeline. I'm not asking you for.
We'll issue the contract to the demolition company on Monday.
We do need to have a contract with them. So once we, I would like to say by the end of this month.
Okay. By the end of this month to have it demolished.
Well, that also depends on
Assuming
their
the contractor's availability
Right.
and all of
Okay.
that, but I think we can order it by that point.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? I just want to commend our city attorney and city manager on working on this. This has been an eyesore for so many years, and it was a really difficult situation. But you've moved it along, and luckily it looks like it's going to be gone. Call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Best,
Aye.
Councilwoman Bravo,
Yes.
Councilman Fahet,
Yes.
Councilman Vasquez, Mayor Mitchell.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Next item under 11G for new business is request by city staff to discuss the request by residents to close the pedestrian sidewalks at 5 locations on the east side of the city.
At the request of Councilman Vasquez and Councilman Fahed, staff met with the neighbors in the surrounding areas bordering the Northwest 36th Street on Manola Drive, Moquina Drive, La Villa Drive, Desoto Drive, and De Leon Drive. The residents in these particular blocks, due to their proximity of the hotels along 36th Street, have been experiencing less than acceptable behaviors such as problems with drug dealings, loitering, immoral behavior, amongst others, as well as homeless and transients who walk freely into the residential areas at all hours of the day. Residents have asked staff to look at the possibility of closing off the sidewalks and roadways currently barricaded with guardrails, and in some cases with trees and other plant materials at the south end of each of these 5 blocks in order to prevent pedestrian traffic into these residential areas. As a result of our meetings and site visits, we have addressed each area separately, along with providing estimated costs for each block. As each location presents different issues that the city needs to address. So location number 1
Let's
is
look at
Manola Drive,
Manola Drive.
which is Exhibit A. The homeowners there at 632 and 633, they both abut both of the Comfort Inn and the Days Inn on the east, and the vacant lot with a chain link fence on the west. The obstacles at this particular area is the wall dividing the Comfort Inn and the resident at 633 Manola ends about 4 feet shy of meeting the edge of the sidewalk.
You see this space right here?
Mm-hmm.
The wall for the parking lot for that hotel doesn't go all the way to the property line. So that would be one of the. This is probably the trickiest intersection to do because of this.
I think the next picture depicts it a little better as far as what we're trying to accomplish with that.
It's the
You get to the next picture.
When you're talking about the decorative iron fence, is that in addition to the barricade that's already there, leaving that there?
Yes.
Not
yes.
removing that,
No.
right? Just
In
adding
most
to it.
cases, the guardrail will end up on the northwest 36th Street side as opposed to the register. So in other words, none of the guardrails will remain on the residential
Manola.
side. They'll all remain on the northwest 36th Street side.
But the guardrail
south
would
end.
go, I mean, the fencing would go all the way across, so we'd have the fencing and the guardrail?
Correct.
Okay.
So as depicted in these pictures,
Oh,
it
right.
would go from the existing
Well, that's
wall.
Moquina. Can we get Manola?
Yeah, it was earlier.
It was the
one of
first
the
one.
Right there.
Nope.
Manola. That's it.
That's it.
Okay. So where William's depicting the wall, it doesn't line up evenly. So
And the reason we have two options is we're going to need an easement or permission from either the hotel or the property owner at 633 Manola. The perfect scenario would be for the hotel to allow us to continue from the end of his wall all the way across. When I was out there and I met with them, they weren't too receptive to it. So just in case, the other option is to approach this homeowner and maybe come in a few inches in from the wall and start the fence that way and go across. As you see, we would have to remove that guardrail, but a new guardrail would replace it. Did you read the?
Do you want me to read the recommendation for that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the recommendation, there's two viable options. However, both of these options, like William said, would require permission from either the hotel and or the homeowner. Option 1 requires permission from the Comfort Inn to extend from their wall to match the existing and to add the additional 4 feet. Or option 2 requires permission from the homeowner at 633 Manola to be able to add the new wall or fence, and in this case I think we're suggesting a fence for all of the 5 areas inside their property. For either option, we would be able to install the fence heading west from 633 Manola across the sidewalk, continuing across the street, then crossing over the sidewalk in front of 632 Manola, then make a turn heading south with the fence approximately 5 additional feet in order to have the fence meet up with the existing chain link fence located at the vacant lot on the corner of Manola off of Northwest 36th Street. So the option 2 would be the blue fence line there, and option 1 would be if we get permission from the hotel, which would be the black line.
We originally had thought of doing a wall, But when we received the first estimate for this particular section of a wall, we run about $80,000.
How much?
80,000. Because the problem is you have to go down, the foundation has to go down about 4 feet. So that the cost was prohibitive. It would have cost about $181,000 to do all 5 streets. So that's why we went with the decorative fence.
Mayor, I have a question, if
Yes.
you don't mind. A question about
Let's do the,
or do we want to finish and then you open it up for questions?
yeah, let's do, is there a motion? Did we already take a motion on this? I'm forgetting.
I move to approve.
Okay, a second.
Second.
All right, now let's do discussion.
So the question is, I'm reading you're saying iron fencing rather than like it's an iron decorative fence rather than chain link,
Actually
right?
aluminum.
Aluminum, okay. And then how tall would the fence be, and what are your thoughts in terms of the shrubs or the plants that you were thinking, the landscaping you were going to do, and have you considered bougainvillea?
I'm working with Lance on that. The fence is going to be 6 feet
6 feet,
tall.
good.
And the plan is eventually to put landscaping
Great.
in front of it also, so that it provides some privacy.
But
Great.
in a lot of areas, there's already landscaping,
Yeah.
so that would
Yeah.
be untouched.
Right, right.
So it
You
wouldn't
use the
require-
existing landscaping.
It wouldn't require too much more in some cases.
Yeah.
So in a case like this, if the hotel refuses and the homeowner refuses, we can't put the fence up.
Then we can't do it.
Okay. So that's
Because
an
it would
important.
leave, there's no sense in putting a fence if you're going to leave
Right,
that
right.
opening
gap.
there.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
the homeowner is here. She's raising her hand if you,
I was about to say.
and the pictures.
Okay. You understand that if you give us your approval, then we can do that. If that, okay, good, good.
She should get up.
Why don't you come
Come to the microphone.
Yeah. It's okay. It's an agenda item, so it's fine.
Thank you for taking the time on this because this is being a headache. This is a headache for me, for my family, for everybody.
Can you tell us your name?
Odalis Donis. I'm the one who sent you the email. Thank you for answering the email.
And you live on 633 Manoa.
Yes. I have to smell marijuana.
Oh.
They smoke and I get drunk, so I cannot go outside.
Mhm.
I have to listen to everything that you can imagine. They fight. I can listen and I call the police on that. Girls crying, help me, help me. I'm even afraid that I'm gonna get shot one day because you never know what's happening there. You cannot go outside in my house. And of course, I need that. I don't know if you can, because sometimes I see that a project for you is more expensive with the people that you hire. I don't know why. Maybe we can have different contractors because I'm not sure how strong the fence is going to be. If we wanted to do something good forever, I'm not sure that a fence, because they even broke, just, how do you call that? That divider?
The guardrail.
Guardrail.
That thing, a vehicle struck that structure and put it down. So for us we have to call the city. For more than 4 months, I didn't have anything there because a vehicle, they don't respect anything. I sent you an email yesterday. I have garbage in front of they eat and they throw the garbage, whatever they're eating, in front of my house.
Mhm.
They take pictures in my house. That's what they do.
Yep.
And so I will approve. I don't care about that.
Okay.
And
good to know.
I think it's good if in the future, when they're going to build in another hotel, they should build that wall for the city.
Yeah.
Because we shouldn't be paying for that.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair, and
Yes.
I provided these pictures for William, and he did a phenomenal job of planning this out. But in the picture on Manola, the picture of the right hand sidewalk, those guys were smoking marijuana while I was taking that picture, right there. I mean, it was like out in the open. So
Okay. Any more discussion?
Should we read all 5 sections, all 5 streets, and then vote on
Yes,
the whole
yes.
thing?
Sure.
Okay, go to number 2, Makina.
So number 2, Mokina Drive, is Exhibit B. So again, both of the homeowners at 632 and 633 Mokina abut the Comfort Suites Hotel on the west side and a concrete wall, as well as the barriers on each side. There's no obstacles in this particular area. The recommendation, as no permission is provided from the property owners, the wall or the fence can be installed on the city property from the edge of the sidewalk where an existing concrete wall is located at 633 Mokina, crossing over the street, continue on the edge of the sidewalk at 632 Mokina, and meet up with the other existing concrete wall. The approximate cost for this decorative fencing is $4,100 for this particular area. So it's literally a straight shot from wall to wall. Number 3 is Desoto or La Villa?
La Villa.
Number 3 is La Villa, which is Exhibit C. Again, we'd have to ask 632 and 633 La Villa abut the Wyndham Gardens Hotel on the west side. The only obstacle here that we may need to remove the existing guardrail, as well as some bushes and some plantings that would be in the way. The recommendation, as no permission is required from the property owners, the fence can be installed on the property going from the edge of the sidewalk, crossing where the existing concrete wall is, located at 633 La Villa, across the street, and continue on the edge of the sidewalk over to 632 La Villa to meet up with the other existing. Again, it's a straight shot with just those 2 obstacles of a couple of bushes and the guardrail. Number 4 is Desoto Drive, which is Exhibit D. Yes?
Come on, please, come.
Yes, come to the podium, please.
Mayor, I think Heidi wants to say something to you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't have a microphone right now, but just wanted to make sure she was coming
Oh.
up with that.
Thank you, Heidi.
Wanted to open it up for comments.
Yes, since it's an agenda item, let's open it up for.
Thank you. The same problem that the lady have in...
Could you tell us your name and
My
address,
name is
please?
Hilda Bennett. I live in La Villa Drive, 633. And like I said, exactly the same problem that the lady have in
Manola.
Minola. In Minola, we have it in La Villa Drive. There are garbage. I have picture of it. Right now, if you go over there, you'll see bottle of beer, cans, a few things. The people from the other side, they park there in front of the barricade, and they don't care, and they do whatever they want. You hear voices, music, loud music at 2:30, 3:30 in the morning, and ladies yelling, having their party on parties, I don't know, maybe in their cars. And here you gotta do before you approve some ideas, you have to consider everything, because you are going to spend a lot of money, and pretty soon you will have the same problem or even worse. And and the city has to spend more money, maybe triple the money that you try to save. To me, the best solution will be just to close the whole thing from one side of the street to the other one and close it like with a concrete wall. How can we do that? That is something that we have to find out, that we have to think about it. But it's very important for you, before you decide something, to consider all the problems that will be in the next future, because a lot of things happening there. We have business there, people that rent bedrooms for short time. There's smoking of pots, and they do so many things, and people very weird, very strange people coming to our city. This is the frontier to our city, and we have to take care of that gate, because they will come inside of the city and they will destroy it little by little. And the business people, the tremendous people that allegedly they're going to bring money to the city, they don't care. They want to make their money, their own money, for their own pockets. That is what they care.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, and
Thank you.
I'm sorry. But believe me,
We're sorry that
we
this is
need your help.
happening. There's been a
We need your
definite
help.
uptick
Thank
in
you.
crime
Thank you so much.
and suspicious persons in that area in recent months, and we're all willing to do something. Yes, I just want to remind all the residents, and we know that that there's a problem going on in the area, and we want to handle it and look at all the options. But please remember, even if it's on the other side of the fence, that's Miami Springs property. You have the right to, and you should, call the police promptly. Just because it's at a hotel, if the noise is bothering you, you call our Miami Springs police, because that's still Miami Springs property. They still have to comply with our noise ordinance and our other ordinances. And what's really important is that we get a prompt call to them so that the police can respond to the incident. If we get a call saying 3 days ago this was happening, there's nothing we can really do about it. And it's important for us to be able to document these infractions in a timely manner.
I try to do it. Good evening. My name is Yomari Calderon. I'm the property owner on 632 Minola Drive. Besides the drugs, the garbage, everything we go through, for me, the painful part in this, I have 2 kids, Diego and Amanda, 15 and 7. Amanda loves to play outside. I can't have it. I can't have her do that. Sometimes I see her cry, Mommy, can we? I have to stay there. If I'm working in my computer, I can't go outside and stay with her. Sometimes my neighbor, she's like, oh, I'm going to be here. And we all try to, watch each other. But it's very painful. Diego, he played basketball. He can't play outside. We've seen people offering drugs to our kids. I mean, on the drive, we've seen it. So besides all that, please add and know that for us, especially now the summer, if I'm working at home, I can't have them play outside. I can't. And it's very painful and stressful. Please know that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one more question. Mentioning the police.
Come up to the podium, please.
Thank you for letting me know about the police. Before I didn't call the police once.
Be sure you call Miami Springs Police.
Yes, I have the number in my phone. One day I decided, I'm going to drive to the guy so he can move, because I was afraid. I don't know who you are at that time. I was coming home. I have a question. Marijuana is legal? Because that bothers me a lot, but I don't know if I should call the police when they're smoking marijuana outside. I should be calling the police all the time. They smoke all the time in the parking lot. It's legal?
You have
Is
a
it legal?
right. You have a well. It depends, because with medical marijuana.
But medical is for smoking, because that's my.
Well, this is the thing: is you have a right to call the police if you see suspicious activity, and we're all supposed to be, see something, do something, say something. So anything that you see that poses hazard to you or to the neighborhood or to anything else, it's your right to call the police and let them evaluate the situation. You tell them what you're seeing, and an officer will respond, and they can evaluate the situation and determine whether any illegal activity is happening or whether it's not.
I
But
wanted
the hotels are on Miami Springs property. So anything that happens on there, and our police investigate issues in the hotels all the time. You should notify us.
we should work together with the police because I thought that he would remain for the meeting because at one point I called the police because there were 2 abandoned properties in my property in the line where you see the space that it is. There were 2 luggages. Who knows what a luggage has? And the officer told me, that's not your property. And say, since when is legal to have an abandoned luggage anywhere? So that was the officer answer. That's not your property. First, it was. I didn't want to argue with him. I just say, this is not right either. I don't know what the luggage has inside. Did you open it? No, I didn't. So I was like, I was a suspect at that point. Did you open it? No, I didn't. That's why I called you to take, I don't know if you're going to open it. And he did that.
In that case, if you feel that it's luggage, you report it to police, and that shouldn't happen again. But if it does, our public works, you can report it as trash that's been left there and that needs to be picked up. Because also when there's
exactly, but
trash,
you don't know what is inside the luggage. I
But
was
then
kind
again,
of scared.
all you do is report it, and then our city staff will evaluate the situation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we get to the
Yes,
next one?
Virgilio, come on up.
Desoto? Oh,
So I know one of the discussions earlier was giving work to boards. A lot of these issues could have been addressed through zoning for some of the new hotels. So I know I'm pretty sure the Comfort Inn is a new one. The building can be designed with crime prevention through environmental design, CPTED principles, to create, to minimize opportunities for people to gather there, enclosing garages, making sure that there's not surface parking where people can gather and that people are enclosed. So there's different design techniques that can be used that we can incorporate into our code. And I know there's going to be more hotel development in this area. The diner that's going to be demolished, that's an opportunity for a new hotel that can create new problems. So to refer to the planning board that we look at amendments to the 36th Street Code to better prevent these issues from happening as new hotels or new businesses or new buildings get developed. So just in the future that we look at the regulations to prevent this type of stuff, be it in the setback that there be landscaping so people don't stand in that area, that the parking be completely buffered so that people in the parking lot don't make noise, things like that.
Is that something that we can look at for our existing hotels?
I mean, a lot of time for existing hotels, for the most part, they're grandfathered, but certainly there's ways to incentivize them to do things. But that's a little tougher.
Also, okay.
Yeah.
So you're suggesting that for future hotels, actually for any future businesses on Northwest 36th Street, because if there's a lounge next to a hotel, it can cause just as many problems. So I think buffering our residential areas from something as large as Northwest 36th Street is a really important.
Yeah, we've seen already a couple new buildings. I don't think the new ones that we've had are pretty well buffered. They have enclosed garages, but there's going to be a lot more development on that corridor. So
this would be referring all new construction on 36th Street corridor to your board, to the planning.
For the most part, it comes. I'm just saying the code before it even gets to our board, because we have to work with the codes that are
buffering from specifying to, for another thing that you look at is also for buffering from.
Right.
Okay. I think that would
Through
be
the chair.
Great.
On this very point that he's making, that is exactly, I've been there a number of times. And he is entirely correct. As soon as I went there the first time when Ms. Nunez called me months ago, the Comfort Inn's entrance is right there, right by that wall. So that in and of itself congregates people there.
Right.
On the other side is a vacant lot, so people are parking there, not in the garage. So there's a lot of congregation there. That is exactly the point that you're making. In other words, that should not be there. Right. The entrance should not be there. I don't know about the others. I don't think the same way. But that one in particular, that was the first thing I noticed.
Yeah.
Okay, now
That the entrance is right there near that wall.
Right.
That's why Odala says that she because what happens, these people as they're checking in or checking out, especially the ones
Stand
checking
there.
out, they'll put their luggage on the side there by the grass.
And maybe wait for an Uber
Wait
even.
for an Uber or wait for a car, but they leave it there and they walk away, and that's what she was noticing.
Smoke a joint.
Rogelio, excuse me, before you go, I just want to make sure with what you've brought up that that doesn't slip through the cracks. Is that something that we need Chris to, when he presents it to the board, to ask for that off buffering, or, to evaluate how something can be improved? Sorry, Heidi.
Sorry, I don't have a
Microphone.
I'm gonna be mobile tonight. I think that this goes to the great, and I think it's a great ideas, and well respected, knowing your background as well. Not just Mr. Malan is not just a member of our board, but he is very well versed on these issues. But as far as the Northwest 36th Street district, I think that's part of the greater discussion that we've been having about looking at the zoning code and seeing what revisions we can make, and those revisions ultimately could go to the Planning and Zoning Board as for their review and input. So certainly those sorts of ideas are some that I think the city would benefit from as part of a public engagement process in getting feedback on what we're going to want to see along Northwest 36th Street and whatever other commercial corridors. So I think it's definitely part of a grand discussion. Yeah, absolutely.
And just for always to include that in the review of a buffering. I think that says buffering from the residential areas is pretty self-explanatory of what we're looking at.
Yeah.
To minimize the impact. Wonderful. Yes, sir.
If I may?
Yes.
Hi.
You could tell us your name.
My name is Francisco Fernandez.
Oh, Francisco. I didn't recognize you from
Yeah,
somewhere.
and I was very fortunate. I served on the Planning and Zoning Board for 20-something years under Mayor Dewhurst, Wheeler, Billy Baines, you name them, for 20-something years. And part of the responsibility of that board is site review. And at that site review, they look at the whole picture and they determine what would work under the current code, of which is buffering, naturally. One of the benefits of having an expert is we always were blessed with the fact that we had an engineer, an architect. So when you guys appoint folks to this very important board, remember the credentials that are very important. And I'll give you an example of a situation, and I haven't been involved, so maybe you have. When they built the hotel across the street from the Office Depot and the Pollo Tropical, that hotel came in front of our board for over a year and a half because we knew that there was something suspicious going on there. So we would review the plans, and the first thing we found, we would send it back. They would come back, correct it. We find another error, we send it back. We were doing what we were supposed to do, which was review the plans. It got to the point where the city got threatened with a lawsuit that we were hindering their property owner's right to develop that property as a hotel. The concern in the community was that this wasn't just a plain hotel. This was going to be a place of illicit activity, prostitution and what have. The city attorney said, if you don't want a hotel, change the code. Okay, which was alluded by the attorney now, that you review the code. If you don't think that hotels are in the best interest of the city, change the code. But beyond that, we didn't change the code. What we did was we approved it as a hotel, and it was the city's responsibility to police it. If it wasn't going to be a hotel, and if it was going to be a place of prostitution, they had a responsibility to clean it up. I don't know how many complaints we get over there by Pollo Tropical. I don't think we get the number of complaints we're getting along 36th Street. So there's a lot of options available. It's just having the right people in the right places so they can help facilitate or avoid problems, number one. And secondly, is when you have an issue like this, you have administrative powers. You've got resource, limited at that because money is always in short supply. But policing is another option. And like I said, they built that hotel. They have the garages out there, but I don't think we have the calls that we get along 36th Street. So that's another thing that you might want to consider in alleviating the problem. Situation was like that driveway that's right almost into residential. The reason that came up was because there was a queuing problem coming off 36th Street. If you put it too close to 36th Street, as you come in, if there's a couple of cars there, they back up to 36th Street and cause a traffic jam and a dangerous situation, a safety situation. You got to look at the whole picture. And I think they do an excellent job. And I, recommend that for future appointments that you go ahead and look at the balance of the people who are on your board. You need those experts to help guide the city through this. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. And we have some very qualified people on our boards. We've been very lucky with the quality of like Rogelio and others, of architects and engineers and other professionals on our boards. I do remember with that hotel, we did change something so that hotels can no longer have garage doors for parking after that hotel. We had to allow them to have that. And now my understanding is that a new hotel cannot have individual garage doors to seal off their cars. Okay, so anything else?
We got two more.
Oh, sorry,
We got
William.
Desoto.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Number 4 is Desoto Drive on Northwest 36th Street, Exhibit D. The homeowners at 632 and 633 Desoto. They abut 2 office buildings, a McDonald's and the Wyndham Gardens Hotel on the east side, and the Ramada Inn Hotel on the west side. The obstacles here that we may need to remove some of the bushes and plantings. The recommendation, as no permission is required from the property owners, the new fence can be installed on the city property from the edge of the sidewalk where there's an existing Eureka palms, which create a barrier located at 633 Desoto, across the street and continue on the edge of the sidewalk to 632 Desoto to meet up with the existing decorative iron fence at the Ramada Inn. The approximate cost for this fencing is $3,300 in this area. Number 5 is the De Leon Drive, Exhibit E. The homeowners at 632 and 633 De Leon abut the Ramada Inn Hotel and a parking lot to the east, and the Holiday Inn Express and another parking lot to the west. There's no obstacles here. The recommendation, as there is no permission required from the property owners, the fence can be installed on the city property from the edge of the sidewalk where the existing decorative iron fence divides 633 De Leon, crossing over the street and continue on the edge of the sidewalk to meet up with the existing concrete wall at 632 De Leon. The approximate cost is $3,150. You want me to read the staff's recommendation?
Let me read it. So after this, staff's recommendation is to install the decorative iron fence and plant landscaping along the fence line where needed in order to provide a privacy barrier. The total cost for the decorative iron fence only in all 5 locations will be approximately $17,600 based on one estimate received. We also obtained a quote, as I mentioned before, for a solid concrete wall, but due to the foundations required for this type of wall, it would have cost approximately $181,000 to do all 5 locations. So we decided to go with the decorative fence option. If council approves this project, we can proceed to get 2 additional quotes in accordance with our procurement policy of obtaining 3 written quotes and bring back to council a firm cost. Since this project was not budgeted, funding would have to come from the available city reserves. Another consideration staff recommends is doing a mail out to homeowners within 500 feet of the proposed locations, advising them of the city's plans and asking for any input they may have on these closures. Although the neighbors in the immediate area have said they do not need sidewalk access to Northwest 36th Street, we want to make sure all residents within at least 500 feet have a chance to provide the city with any concerns they have about this proposal. And we've already done the 500 foot radius. I think Juan, city clerk's office, worked on it today. I think it's about 136 homes that we will be mailing out the information to.
Does that in most cases cover the block? The
Usually-
homes to the end of the block, of that block?
It goes actually 2
Past
blocks.
to us. Okay.
Actually goes up 2
Good.
blocks.
Okay, great. Okay, any other discussion?
Yes, through the chair. I appreciate these residents being here tonight, bringing this to us at a council meeting. This is the time and place to do it. That's for sure. It sounds to me and Francisco, you have seen some of this before through the years. I know. I've seen you in work, in action, relative to some of the areas that we had the Eldron Drive problem for a while. This area in Manola, De Leon, that whole section over there, Desoto, that's been going on for quite a few years. And it's good to see residents here at least raising their hand and asking for some help. So I appreciate that. I got 2 questions, and William just answered one of them, and that was the funding and where it's going to come from. And the second question I have is the efficacy of a 6-foot fence. Is that going to solve our problem?
Through the chair?
Yes.
Can we go higher?
Then
The
6.
fence?
No, by code is 6 feet. 6.
Without exception, we can't make an exception.
Well, you know what? You might have a point, Councilman Bravo, because this is residential abutting commercial. Would there be a waive on that?
I don't believe so.
I think there's a 9-foot.
Counselor, I know residential to residential that exists in the code, but residential to commercial?
I'd have to look at what the
Yeah,
code
I'm
says.
not sure either.
And if
There might be an opening there to get some.
and maybe that's another opportunity to update the code.
Through the chair.
Thank you, Counselor.
And you're going to provide us with information on how we can update the code for the budget?
Yes.
To include it in the
Through
budget
the
consideration?
chair.
The other thing, Mayor, through the chair, if I just might just to finish, this appears it's going to take a little bit of time for it to materialize relative with the city and legal. Should we ask police to surveil that area a little better for these folks in the interim? Would that be a thought? I mean, because if all this activity is happening on a regular basis, they deserve some surveillance over there.
I don't know if you've seen from the recent reports or we post online of the arrests that are taking place in that area, but police, like the chief mentioned before, spend almost half their time in that area. We'll respond to calls when residents call us and let us know something's wrong. We'll be out there. We had that issue at that home invasion in Manola, where the gentleman walked into an open front door. The homeowner kicked him out. He called police, and within 2 minutes, they arrested the guy 2 houses down. So we'll respond quickly when police are called.
Yeah, thank you.
Through the chair.
Go ahead. I had a quick question.
Yeah.
William, what's a conservative timeline for, once approved, this getting done? Are you talking about,
I'm hoping if we'll get another 2 quotes, we'll do the mail out. I can get bring back the final quotes for the June 28th meeting, and we can start working right after that, so we can get it done during July.
Okay, great.
And if they're available, I'm imagining a fencing company can put this in, less than a week, in a few days. Councilman
Through the chair.
Valdez.
I wanted to add something to
Vasquez.
a point. Thank you. A point that Councilman Best raised, and that is this going to resolve the problem? Right? That's how much of it, and something Francisco, right, mentioned made me think of this. Were you referring to the Aladdin? Is that the Aladdin hotel? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Through the
Those
chair.
of us on the east side know about that problem. Just a couple of things. Number one, I just want to reiterate, I'm sure Councilman Fayet will agree with me because we live on that side of the city, so I'm more familiar with this. But having been to Manola, excuse me, several times, when I first went there, when I first spoke to Mr. Alonso, and he went out there and he sent his staff out there. He said to me, you know, we're going to have to close off 4 or 5 streets, right? It was because of it was happening to them. But I could tell you that on one occasion I was there at Miss Nunez's house, and I came out, and someone had just crossed the sidewalk with a basketball and a 40-ounce can of beer to play basketball in your front yard, right? So what the residents have told me, and I'm sure have told Councilman, this is a quality of life issue that probably wasn't really on a lot of people's minds at the time when we were doing the hotels. And, you know, these are tourist people that come into the hotels between flights, yada, yada, yada. And the reality, as I've heard from the residents, is that it's not exactly that, particularly with some of the hotels we're talking about. There's a whole other element of folks there. So the idea of having this free opening and a sidewalk and people could walk and you know, people could lay down on Miss Nunez's lawn and take pictures. It really was disturbing to me when I called Mr. Alonso. So having said that, and I appreciate the cost, right? Because this is not something that was budgeted. So I'm not sure I can visualize the fence. You know, if you ask the residents, you know, 30 feet might be, I'm exaggerating, right? But the idea is you don't want people just can go over the fence and continue to be a nuisance. So I think that the idea of something a little bit higher, appreciate your comment, Councilwoman Bravo. And I appreciate the question by Councilman Fahed about how long this would take. So we want to do it as quickly as we can, as best as we can with the in the case of Doña Nunez, you know, having that piece of her property taken. And I really personally would like to see a picture of something, what kind of fence this is, because I don't want to have to revisit this 6 months from now.
Well, what we'll do for the next meeting, when we bring you the quotes, we'll bring you a design or rendering.
Yes, and I think they would like to see it too. So
I think the bottom line is that what you want is a barrier.
Absolutely.
So that it's not open, so people can just walk right through.
Yeah.
I mean, if
you look at it like now,
they're going to jump over.
It's
a
an
fence,
opening
they're
right
gonna
now.
Jump over a wall too.
Yeah,
right.
If they want to get
There,
to the other side.
But
And one possibility with, or perhaps we can look into it with decorative iron fencing is, I know I've seen some with a mesh behind it. So you have the fencing, but they have that metal mesh between it. You know what I'm talking about?
The green stuff.
You can buy that separately too.
Right, and that's not very expensive, and it really does add that degree of privacy, and you can't like put your hands in between the railings to, you know, so perhaps if we could look into that too. I think this is a cost-effective means of addressing this. If we're talking about, you know, $200,000, I don't see that happening as quickly as we can implement something like this. And the real issue seems to be that the access with the sidewalks is an invitation to roam.
Right.
And for most part, and of course, you can never deter someone who's really determined to do something, but for the most part, when that invitation to roam is not there, I think we'll see substantial decrease. And again, as far as the noise and other nuisances, that has to be, you call our Miami Springs police and they respond and they'll deal with that on a case-by-case basis.
Madam Mayor, one quick point, and I'll just to reiterate, I think that, and I understand the concern about, you know, will it be enough? But if we are going to be putting landscaping and we put bougainvillea, it's very low maintenance. It's very robust. It grows easily, and it's a deterrent. If you've got, you don't have to do a lot to maintain it. Even flowers at different parts of the year. But with those thorns, nobody's going to want to jump a fence and have to go through bougainvillea. So I would ask that the city consider that.
Okay, so do we need to take a vote at this to proceed?
I have
Oh,
a
I'm sorry.
motion to approve
There's a
and a
motion.
second.
Okay,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bravo, do you want to say
Through
something
the
else?
chair, I had a question, William. For these problematic areas where we get most of our phone calls, would it be not? Can we look into maybe the idea of CCTV cameras so that we can kind of alleviate the police where we have an officer looking at the screens, and then they could dispatch themselves as they see things that are suspicious, rather than waiting for someone to realize that there's something going on, just to alleviate. I want my cops out where they're supposed to be, right? And then we can have one assigned instead of driving around. You're not going to catch it like a camera. So I was wondering where you have
I'll
those.
ask the chief about the cost of
Yes.
that, but the issue is that if you put those cameras in one area, everyone's going to want them.
Well, no, our most problematic areas. I'm not
We
saying.
have a few problematic areas.
Okay,
Yeah, we
but
haven't
if
even-
that's really
we haven't
gonna
even
really,
talked
that's
about
gonna be
moving
a.
east.
Someone would have to watch the camera.
Well, it wouldn't be any different
have to
than
watch it.
somebody trolling, and they're gonna miss it. I just think, and then we can, alleviate that overtime, because you would have that, the offers come in and the other one comes in, and then I don't know, something to alleviate the idea of like, okay, I'm not gonna do something here because who wants to come will come, right? But if they see that there's surveillance. I don't know. It's just a thought. Since we're putting up the fence and we're not going the concrete route, a CCTV would probably be helpful.
So do we need to?
I was just
Vice
going to ask a
Mayor,
quick
did you want to
question
say?
for the
Sure.
attorney through the chair. Would that pass legal muster?
Would what pass legal muster?
Cameras.
It depends. That's we need to look at
Yeah.
a lot of things. So
Do we need a vote now to proceed or?
I
to
think the
adopt-
manager was
accept
looking
this
for
with-
basically direction to be able to move forward.
Okay, so do we just need consensus? Okay, let's
Yeah,
do
we have-
consensus, everyone, to
Yes.
ask the city manager and staff
Absolutely.
to.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
our attorney to proceed with this effort. I think it's clearly very needed, just because this wasn't. I mean, we've always had crime in Miami Springs. Like crime has increased throughout the nation. Unfortunately, that's the reality. After a 30-year decrease in crime, we're seeing an uptick in it across the nation. Miami Springs is not immune to that, and we need to deal with it as best we can when these issues arise. So I think this is a good direction. We've certainly got other streets already closed off along, the Northwest 36th Street corridor. So I don't see why we couldn't do these streets that are experiencing problem now. Okay, so let's go on. Pardon me?
Other business.
All right. Let's take a 5-minute recess. Or are you guys
Mayor,
okay?
can we keep going? Can we just?
Are you
go
guys
through it?
okay?
I'm okay. If you guys are okay.
All right.
Let's move.
Okay.
It's early.
All right.
make
The
a good
next
time.
agenda item, 12A is a request to discuss the governor's approval, by myself, to request the governor's approval of the 2021 state appropriations. I'm just really elated because for the past 3 or 4 years, we've been requesting these appropriations through our state legislators. And I know Councilman Best has diligently gone to Tallahassee year after year to request this. I have too, our city manager. And every year we have moved a little bit forward. Last year, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, what we thought might be approved wasn't, was vetoed by the governor. But we've got all 3 appropriations right now that we requested, and this is really phenomenal. Very needed improvements to the east side of Miami Springs, the South Royal Poinciana improvements, which 3 years in a row we've been pursuing, and the East Drive improvements, which 2 years in a row we've been pursuing, and it just shows that being persistent and not giving up when we're just, in my opinion, our city is just as entitled to the funding for these improvements and necessities for our city as any other municipality in the state. So I just really want to thank our state legislators, Brian Avila, State Representative Brian Avila, and our State Senator Manny Diaz for their assistance year after year with this. Again, to thank Councilman Best for going to Tallahassee so diligently each time to pursue this. And also I wanted to thank our lobbyist, Jose Fuentes, who sadly lost his father this past week. So I'm sure our condolences to him. But our lobbyist, Jose Fuentes, and his staff just are the ones. None of us have the time to be at the state legislative sessions, finding out where these are and moving them, trying to move our issues to the top of the pile, And certainly no one in the city has the staff time to do this, and our lobbyists do that for us. So I really think they've done an excellent job.
Yeah, you're correct.
So anyway, just to thank our state representatives and that we're moving forward with these projects, which are really needed. Of course, the meals for the senior center, that's of utmost importance. I know a few months ago we had some residents come to the city council meeting, and we told them we were applying for the East Drive project again. And so I'm sure that they're very happy to know that it finally went through. Okay, any comments on that? Anyone want to say anything on that? Okay.
I think it's quite amazing that that we were this fortunate to get everything we wanted. It's very rare that we fill every category. Yeah. And is there any timeline for this funding to be realized?
Well, it's the new budget year,
October.
July 1st.
Yeah.
So we'll probably have in August. We'll have the state contact us and give us the two contracts, which we'll bring to you for approval. But we already have our city engineers, Palmetto and Hialeah, working on the design and everything for this, getting ready so that when it hits, we're ready to go.
Excellent.
And for the new council members, every year in the fall is when we start preparing, deciding on what appropriations we're going to request, and working with our lobbyists to pass them up to Tallahassee, and trying to move them along to get the attention that they deserve so that they get approved through the House and Senate, and then through the governor's approval. Okay, so the next agenda item is number 12B, and that's an update by myself and our city manager on recent meetings with FDOT regarding the Northwest 36th Street corridor and the Iron Triangle projects. And if you remember, in the fall, in November, I think in October, we found out that FDOT reached out to us to tell us that they were evaluating the Northwest 36th Street corridor to improve, basically, the bottom line, what I can get from it, William, is to improve freight travel on that corridor. They're saying, to improve traffic. And I go, we really don't have a significant traffic issue on there. I know Doral does when you get into Doral. But we had FDOT make a presentation to the city council in November about the project. They're in the study phase. Is that correct, William? Mm-hmm. So no money has been allocated. They haven't determined what they want to do. And there's basically three options. There's a no build option. There's an option that involves kind of tweaking the lights and the systems and stuff so that traffic flows more efficiently. And then the third option, which there were various variations on that, is actually increasing the width of Northwest 36th Street, adding possibly freight lanes. And at one point, they were even looking at an elevated roadway along 36th Street.
Like double decker, yeah.
Right, that seems to be off the table now, but they're still...
Well, they're still talking about a section between the Palmetto and Milam Dairy being elevated up to until the bridge by the PGK. Mm-hmm. The last time we met with them 2 weeks ago, when they had another Zoom meeting, they're talking about that being elevated, and then 36th Street widening it, and then the infamous Iron Triangle, which is going to be the one that we're going to fight.
I mean,
the Iron Triangle is Lejeune, Northwest 36th Street, and the 112.
They're extending the 112 over into the median on 36th Street, as far down as Kenmore. So
Sheridan, I think, which is
across from the EB Hotel
in front.
That overpass going into the median.
Which obviously we're all against all of this. Our recommendation has been no build. Unfortunately, the meeting we were at 2 weeks ago, which they have probably had 30 people there virtually, wouldn't you say? But they're from all over, from the seaport and from Doral and from all over. And they had a voting after they showed different things just to get an idea. It was, they said it wasn't an official voting to see who would, be in favor of the elevated guideway and the elevated roadway and the widening. And I told them this voting is very unfair, because if we had known you were going to vote, we'll have a lot more people from Miami Springs, at the meeting to vote. So he assured us, for what it's worth, that they would take that into consideration, because I said, you're voting on issues that affect Miami Springs, but would improve, transit mobility for other parts of the county. So the bottom line is the two places that they want to improve mobility, and this is east-west, I should mention that. It's from the 826 all the way to I-95 and actually
US 1.
Biscayne Boulevard, US 1, is from Doral, to and from Doral, and then from the airport, the cargo area of the airport, which is expanding, and they want to move cargo more rapidly from there. What we have told them repeatedly, I mentioned to them, is that if they want to increase the east-west corridor, they need to go south of the airport on the 836, which has plenty of space for expansion. They can put a double roadway there. They wouldn't affect any residential communities. And the FDOT has been really ingenious in, devising ways of the expressway going and meeting up with something. I know I'm always missing exits now because, where I think the exit is, it was actually
Where it was
6 miles ahead. So that doesn't seem to be, something that they wouldn't be able to handle. But we wanted to make sure the council knows about this. It's a really pressing issue. It's something that we have to really be on top of, even though they're just in study phase. They can go from there to the planning and engineering phase. And they're having 2 public sessions.
Yes.
One on the 22nd.
22nd, 24th.
One on the 22nd and the one on the 24th is going to be here in Miami Springs.
At the Holiday Inn.
Holiday Inn.
On
But
Miami.
both will also be virtual, so you can either attend in person or virtual.
Okay, and we're going to post it on our website and send it, but we really need the residents to be aware of this, to attend these public sessions either virtually. The one on the 22nd is at FDOT headquarters over here by Doral, and then the second one will be here at the Holiday Inn. You can attend virtually, and and voice your opinion on this. This is, and we've told them repeatedly, this is our Northwest 36th Street is our heart, is our lifeblood, because we're a city that is bordered on 2 sides by water, by the Ludlam Canal and the Okeechobee Canal. So really that's basically the only way we have of access in and out of the city, as far as to connect with expressways and to get to other areas of Miami Springs. So this would be really detrimental, any kind of expansion along there. And the other reasons are too, that even if they make freight move more quickly, if they increase the traffic on that, it's going to be environmental air quality for us, because we'll be breathing the exhaust from any increased traffic on Northwest 36th Street, increased noise pollution. So there's a whole bunch of other issues, and it'll definitely impact our ability to access Northwest 36th Street and to access 836 and 826 and the 112 and Lejeune. So again, we really want to ask residents to attend these 2 public sessions and voice their concerns about the project.
Through the chair, they're really up with their backs against the wall here relative to widening 36th Street. I mean, there's nothing to widen going north, and then you're abutted to the airport going south. So I'm not surprised that they're thinking going up at all. I'm really not.
And they've discussed actually using part of Perimeter Road along Northwest 36th Street. But the thing is that they'll still be widening the lanes, which would be more traffic on Northwest 36th Street, no matter how you look at it.
Sure.
And, in my opinion, Doral has been allowed to expand exponentially without any controls. And now, there's an issue in having freight and cars go back from there. And, we happen to be in the middle of it. And more controls should have been put in place, or some other ways. I do want to stress FDOT has been extremely transparent and polite and helpful. So by no means have they, I can't stress that enough.
Try to force it on us.
Pardon me?
They haven't tried to force
Not
it
at
on
all.
us.
Not at all.
They
They
want
have
our
told us
input.
repeatedly, they're looking, I mean, they've been assigned this task. This is basically a team that has been assigned this task to study the Northwest 36th Street corridor and see what can be done. So, you know, I do want to stress that they've been very just transparent and answered all our questions and been very honest about the three possibilities that they're considering.
Our
Through the
track
chair.
record on alternatives has been pretty good, particularly with the jail. We won that battle. So let's keep at it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, through the chair.
Yes.
I seem to recall an iron triangle in Vietnam, and that didn't go too well for us either.
No.
So I've already begun talking to residents. I've talked to them about other things. When I mentioned that third option, you know, people are like, no. I said, well, you know, there are two meetings and a form for you to participate. So we got to spread the word. I'm more available the 22nd than I am on the 24th. So
Okay.
one way or another, I'm going to be there.
And we'll put it on our website and we'll try to
And
get
and
the
any
information
and
out
any
to
Facebook
residents.
pages and any things that we have that we can get the word out there.
Unfortunately, we found out about it now in June, so it's not in time to put it in the Gazette since they're doing their monthly issues, which ideally that would be a great way to get the information out too. Okay. So the next agenda item is a request, item 12C, a request by Councilman Fahet to discuss the proposed pedestrian bridge on North Royal Poinciana by the train tracks.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So after we had the workshop, it was the last item that we discussed that evening was the project, and since then, I think it also was mentioned in an article after that meeting by the Herald, and I think also in the New Times they had something about it. And I've had a lot of residents come and tell me. I think you guys know I lived for 30 years on the intersection of Thrush Avenue and Hammond and North Royal, so literally a block from where this is going to go. And long before I was on the council, I would come to the meetings, but I was asking city staff like what the status of if this is a project that's already been approved and is moving ahead and there's no way to stop it or is there room for it to be brought up again for discussion. And what I've heard from a lot of residents, Mr. Milan's the first resident I've heard voice their support for the project. I've heard from many residents that are reaching out to me again because I used to live in that neighborhood in the bird section, and just also because I talk to a lot of people. I have a lot of people that are really voicing their concerns. There's also they're not quite clear on all of the details, which I try to explain to them. But I again have talked to a lot of people who feel like they had no idea this is going through and they don't like it. So I wanted to propose that we at a upcoming meeting have like an official update and perhaps maybe even like give notice to the people in the bird section as a courtesy so that they know, because a lot of people are telling me they're kind of blindsided by this, that this is taking place. And all I could tell them is like, listen, send an email or come and, discuss it at a meeting. But I think there's a lot of people that want to know what the status is, where we're at. Is this something that is completely a done deal and the horse has left the barn and it's coming? And just, do something at a meeting officially and give notice to the residents in the bird section, so that they, can voice whatever concerns they may have. And there may be an equal number of people that are in favor for it. But at least what I've been hearing has been like completely in the other direction in terms of people not wanting it. So I was hoping that the council could, and especially since we have a new council, and I guess my understanding is that this was approved by the previous council, that maybe we could have a public discussion about the status of the project, whether or not it's completely approved and moving forward and there's no going back. And just to help clarify for residents and to give residents an opportunity to really kind of hear about the project and voice any concerns they may have, so that they don't think that this was something that was sprung on them.
Through the chair, I'd like to commend Councilman Fahed for bringing this item to us tonight, because there is a lot of buzz around town about it, and I too have received calls from police, real estate people, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure you have too.
Mm-hmm.
And also registering concerns about a pathway for crime to come into Miami Springs. That's basically what their argument is, or their discussions, at least what they relayed to me. And so, yeah, some modus needs to be put in place for us to educate people as to the sanity of this project, because some of them are like absolutely avid about it.
Yeah.
Or adamant, I should say, about not having it done. And someone spoke earlier tonight, as we all heard, relative to the access, and even some suggestions were made about maybe a gate be put up and the door so that nobody can access it after the metro station closes, something like that. I mean, so there's all kinds of things that we can, brainstorm on this. But just to know, and that there are a lot of folks opposed to it in the city, at least from what I'm hearing. I hear very little support for it. I'll leave it there.
Right.
Yeah.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Councilman Fahed mentioned that this was approved by council in 2019. Mr. Alonso shared some information, some things that I didn't know. So I just have questions. So if it was approved in 2019, why is it being discussed again? Number one, okay, you'll clarify that. Number two, if it was approved in 2019, was there any voice of opposition? I mean, I got a petition here with 125 names on it. Did that happen back then as well? And people asking me about it, and the third thing is that again, that was some things that I hadn't thought about when we were discussing it 2 weeks ago. Is what kind of foot traffic are we getting, or we would expect to have with a bridge like this? So it's just questions I have about. Is people are throwing things at us and they're saying, "Well, I didn't know about this," and I didn't even know it was done. So, but when I heard about it was done in 2019, I'm thinking, okay, well, did you guys say anything back then about it?
Of course, it was a council on
Yeah,
the council
so just
agenda, and we
clarification.
passed a resolution, so it was noticed on the council agenda and discussed, and the presentation was being made.
Was it held up by the COVID? Was that the idea?
No, we had to wait for the funding. The
Right.
the funding had to be. It was approved. It was a presentation was made. We approved it, and then FDOT had the funding, and they advised us last year, that it had passed the TOP. There's several processes for that. So this is an agenda item like everything else, and it's a very slippery slope, in my opinion, because you're sitting on here. We just approved something for, fencing on one area. Do you want the council that comes in 2 years to all of a sudden say, well, wait a minute, did they discuss it enough? It's just basically what we've just done. Did they discuss this item enough? And, can we remove it now because we're a new council and we're hearing? And Councilman Fahed, I just want to say, and I know you were on the council when there was the issue with the changing the ordinance for the number of animals and the cats that you could, and you remember how many emails we got on that?
Yep.
100 more? You know what I'm saying? So that's not an unusual thing especially when you have someone, and I know Francisco has been knocking on doors. If your neighbor knocks on the door and, tells you, I'm very concerned about this, would you sign a petition? Most of us would. I would like to say that I have gotten calls from residents who signed the petition, and several of them, Sunday especially, after the article came out in the paper, and they said they signed the petition, and they said, can you explain to me about it? Because I see that you're for it. And I signed it because a resident came by and knocked on my door and said that. And of course it's a neighbor. And after I explained it, they said, I'm for it. I understand now the project. So, crime, you brought up crime. What is the crime from the pedestrian bridge by the high school? I live 2 blocks from there in the residential area. There's Heron, Dove, Lenape, all this residential is 2 blocks from there. And, that's an overhead pedestrian bridge, which this is not an elevated bridge. Again, I know the pedestrians, several people told me they thought it was an unsightly bridge, like over at the high school, because that's what they've signed a petition for an elevated bridge. And I know we clarified that to you last time, Francisco, and you've gotten a lot more petitions since then with the same information with the elevated bridge. It's grade level with the it's at grade level with the FEC tracks. Well, they understand an elevated bridge. They thought it was like a high school, at the high school, that, because that's what an elevated bridge. Okay. Okay. Well, that's what I got several calls from of people, because they saw in the Herald that I was in for it. And so they said, I want to hear your side of it. So, and that was one of the issues. They go, oh, we thought it was something like at the high school, another, monstrosity, which basically is, even though it serves its purpose, but they put there for a purpose. To my knowledge, in the 4 years that I've been on the council, we hear about crime on Manola. We hear about crime on 36th Street. We hear about crime on the Ledlam. I have never heard of any issue with, so as far as using that as, and I can see how that is fear of persons, but that's, obviously, that hasn't been a concern with the other pedestrian bridges, especially. This was an issue when they were building the high rises over here in Hialeah by the Canal Pedestrian Bridge, that, now all those people are going to be swarming into Miami Springs. It's just, this fear that we have of, and I understand people are afraid of change, and the fear factor of crime and stuff, is pretty persistent in Miami Springs. But I know we heard, and Councilman Fahet, you were out, but we had another speaker while you were out, and it was Jen Yerena, who's also on the ecology board, and she spoke in favor of the bridge. And so we've had 2 at the public forum today speaking in favor of it, and Rogelio, of course, who, so, I mean, this is, are we going to, do you want to set the precedent that, which I don't think has been done in the past, of, whatever a council votes on, we just go backwards and, now I have no problem with offering information on it. And, we can offer an information session on.
Oh, that's what I proposed, Mayor,
Okay,
is that
because if we're going to be backtracking, then we need to go way back on a whole bunch of things. And, there's.
It's every council's right, though, to reassess everything, right? And
and that's what I'm saying, that, then, every time that something's decided, is it just up for, what, the new council isn't for it? And
I understand that.
So
But
I think
that's every council's right.
providing the information, yes, it is, but it's 1 step forward and 3 back, and I think we owe it to our community to be more effective.
So
The whole purpose of this is to provide us with connectivity with the Metro Rail system, which I think we had a presentation, I think it was before this council, on the SMART plan. Miami-Dade County is going to be expanding their view is they're not going to have parking available, or parking is going to be very, very high, restricted. A lot of buildings are being allowed to be built without parking. And if there is parking available, the rates are going to be very high. Tolls are going to be increasing because Miami-Dade Transit is planning to try to encourage people to use the trains, the new SMART plan, and provide access throughout the county. And all this does, if somebody wants to get in their car, they can always do it. I've heard from some people saying, well, I would never use it. Well, the same went through with when we were building the new rec center. Well, I don't use it. I'm not going to use it. Why do we need to spend the money on the new rec center or the aquatic center? I have a pool in my backyard. Why do we need that? And, we can make that argument for everything. I can tell you it was certainly a concern with something that I heard repeatedly with the bike path project back in 1990 when we were working on it. And I think most of you know that was a project that, a committee of 3 of us worked very hard on. And I can tell you that we had so many residents complaining about you're going to take away green space on Curtis Parkway. If you can imagine, Curtis Parkway was just a median. You're going to take away green space and the crime. People will be walking up and down Curtis Parkway and increased crime. No, we took the green space and created something usable, a linear park. In all the years that I've lived in Miami Springs, 30 years since, I don't know of any crime that, increase in crime that has been related to providing bike paths throughout Miami Springs. But I can tell you that we heard from a lot of residents who are very concerned about the bike paths. It'll bring in, undesirables, and they'll be roaming our bike paths and we won't be able to tell that they're not residents. The other thing I want to mention on this is I think it's really incumbent upon us we have a responsibility to plan for the future of this community. And planning for the future of this community means looking 5 years ahead and 10 years ahead for how do we provide mobility for our residents. And right now, yes, a lot of our residents, feel comfortable with our cars. Uber and Lyft are likely to go away because their rates, if you've noticed, are increasing. I know we just flew in from New York this weekend. We couldn't even get an Uber from the airport, from Miami Airport, to here to Miami Springs. They were there were a few on hand, and you would click on them, they wouldn't accept it. So we weren't, this is unheard of, but that's the reality with Uber and Lyft. Their prices have increasing and there's less people driving and availability. So for those of us who would like an alternative to getting in our car and paying exorbitant fees for parking or not being able to park or being in traffic, connectivity to the Metro Rail system, which is going to be the lifeblood in Miami-Dade County for providing transportation for our children to go to college. They can get to FIU. They'll be able to get to FIU because they're going to expand it to FIU, be able to get to University of Miami. They can get to Miami-Dade. A lot of high school kids right now, they're in magnet programs. They use Metro Rail. They get a free pass on Metro Rail, and they're the ones that are riding home on Metro Rail and crossing on the FEC tracks. We don't have a responsibility to provide safety for, people who want to have alternative transportation. And who wants to ride the bus? Who wants to go on Northwest 36th Street and ride a bus? But I hear that from people, well, if somebody wants to ride mass transit, they should go on Northwest 36th Street and ride a bus. In the first place, that's probably not going to be an option. But in the second place, we have a Metro Rail station right there. The county is going to be reconfiguring with their smart plan to have accessibility throughout the county. Rogelio mentioned with Miami Beach. Miami Beach, and Rogelio, you know more about it than I do with Miami Beach. I know you're trying to limit parking from visitors. So basically, is it true, Rogelio? And if you come to that unless you're a resident, you're not going to have the chance to drive your car there. Yet the county is providing a connectivity, some sort of mass transit, rapid connectivity from downtown to Miami Beach. By having the pedestrian and bicycle path available to us to Metro Rail station, we'll be able to take advantage of that. If not, we are dooming dooming our community, our future in the next 5 and 10 years to being like this little cocoon where basically, unless you own a car and unless you're willing to pay exorbitant fees and get in traffic, you can't go anywhere. And I know there's a lot of people in Miami Springs who don't go anywhere. They say, well, everything we need is here. That's fine. But there are a lot of us and our children and future young professionals that are moving here, these are very important things to them.
That's true in Miami Beach. We are, for new development, limiting parking because we don't want more cars and more traffic. And part of the smart plan is the beach link. Right now, it's looking like it's going to be a monorail connecting downtown to Miami Beach, but that's still being discussed and being decided, the exact technology. But that's definitely part of the plan. And I would love to be able to use that and not be stuck on the Julia Tuttle Causeway, which gets worse every year. And right now it's worse. It feels like it's Art Basel right now. And I would love to not have to drive to work. So.
Thank you, Rogelio. So what I would suggest is to allow the residents who, I mean, that's like any issue in Miami Springs. We have them at the council meetings, and we advertise what is going on at the meetings, and the residents have the ability to attend the meetings, to speak on us, to contact us. What I would suggest is that we have an information session, that the city provided an information session on it. It doesn't have to be at a council meeting, although the council can attend, where we, provide information on the project.
So yeah, thank you for that. And listen, we're all. You make a very compelling argument. But we're all accountable to our constituents, and I've heard from a lot of people. That's what I've been saying from day one. Is that I'm hearing from a lot of people who they're all opposed, right? That have reached out to me, and maybe that's just maybe they're only reaching out to me, who knows why. I'm just telling you that I know a lot of people there, and so my proposal, the whole reason behind this discussion, was not to discuss the status from your point of view right now. It was to see if I'm the only one who's hearing from everybody, and to propose that we have a type of information session. And the other thing that was my ask was that we try to notice the people that would be most directly affected, which would be the people in the bird section. If we can have an information session, it is what it is. If it was approved on, nothing could happen. At least they can't go, because they're all coming to me because they heard about it, and they all feel like this was, a boondoggle. And I'm trying to explain to them that, it was from 2019, and you have a very compelling argument, and that it is what it is. But at least that way, I can tell my constituents, hey, look, here's a notice was sent out. Here's an information so that the misunderstandings in terms of the details that residents may have, that can all get cleared up, and everybody can be clear, and everybody can have their share their concerns if they have any, and those could be refuted, upheld, whatever it is. But I can't just say, hey, well, it's first of all, I can't individually explain to everybody all the points, and they're coming to me because they're shocked that they learned about this in the paper after it was discussed. So my ask is that we have an information session, and that we send notice, like we're doing on those street closures, that we give notice to the people in the bird section, because those are the people that are coming to me saying, like, hey, where did this even come from? And again, there's how do we have money to pay for this? Well, no, it's paid for through, again, is it elevated? Is it not elevated? All that is academic. These people are just not in favor of it. And so as long as we're transparent and we have an information session and show, this is the status, there's no going back. It sets a bad precedent, or whatever the case may be. At least that way, they have been, served with notice about it, because they really did feel like they were blindsided by it. I don't know if I'm the only one. That's why I'm asking for consensus from my colleagues on the dais.
Through the chair. Okay, so I agree with the safety 100%. That's a no-brainer. But just the way that we have preliminary procedures that we do for these enclosures that we're doing as well, an information session would have been great before the approval of the resolution. I don't agree of changing resolutions. I think that once they're decided on, they should stay. However, I think that if there's maybe an infraction or in a gap, any resolution that was made and it's now being seen, maybe it can be brought back to the table. Because that's a slippery slope, like you said. Like, once we pass things, we pass things. But I think that if we skip a lot of maybe important parts of the process to make sure that we don't come back to these meetings and removing a resolution that was already made, we're making tremendous efforts for these enclosures. So that's what I feel on that. Number two, if there's any issues let's say we just start getting heavy issues, right? What do we do then? Is there an opportunity to enclose that? Or should we start now giving card swipies for Miami Springs residents? Because this is supposed to be a benefit for Miami Springs to go out. I think we're maybe the last stop before the next stop. I'm not sure.
We're the last stop.
Okay, so
No, there's another stop
One more going.
after Palmetto Yard.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then
Continues to.
now that the awareness is out, now Medley or other parts they're gonna want to start confiscating to this corner, and they're like, maybe they're too far, they can't walk. So they're going to start bringing their cars. What's the plan to, because people don't want parking in front of their house. So I guess I'm thinking ahead of when we start getting,
And these are all things that were discussed again, like we discussed this. I mean, it's part of a meeting, and we had a meeting, and it was on the agenda, and it was approved as a resolution. So the same process that we're having here, this was all done then. As far as parking, there is no parking for this. This is bicycle and pedestrian. If anyone wants to park at Metro Station, they get in their car and they drive to Okeechobee. There's a parking garage there. So that is absolutely no parking. Now, if Medley, allows parking along there, which, that is actually a lane, a travel lane, but that would be their enforcement issue. But no, this isn't for any parking. The other thing I want to stress is I know Councilman Petrolanda worked very hard on making sure that Miami Springs, that we have access to Metrorail, because Metrorail, again, is a mass transit that for the majority of us is acceptable, even though for whatever the reason, we won't ride the buses. But we will ride Metrorail. And so he worked very hard at making sure that we had some sort of accessibility for it. And basically what it is our free shuttle that goes around Miami Springs. Takes an hour to go around Miami Springs, because to provide accessibility to Metrorail, it actually has to leave Miami Springs and go all the way up, Southeast 1st Avenue to the Hialeah Metrorail station, and then come back along Palm Avenue back into Miami Springs. The reason for that is because time-wise, it's actually faster for the shuttle to go all the way there than to try to get on Okeechobee and drive to Okeechobee and drop off passengers and then come back. So changing this, the shuttle would be able to, instead of going to Hialeah, exiting Miami Springs, it would be able to do around to that pedestrian bridge, drop off there or pick up there. It would allow the shuttle to travel through Miami Springs twice an hour. Instead of right now, it's 1 hour plus or minus 15 minutes because of the traffic in Hialeah that it's encountering to get to the Metrorail station. This would allow the shuttle in Miami Springs. You can pretty much, be sure that you're not going to encounter unprecedented traffic with its route, and would allow it to complete its ride in twice an hour, which is a pretty reasonable way to access the Metrorail station for those that want to. Again, some of us, I know for myself, when I worked downtown, if I had had safe access to the Metrorail, I would have easily walked to the Metrorail station and taken it to downtown to the Government Center building. However, once I got into my car to drive to Metrorail, I'd first have to pay $4 to park my car there, then pay for Metrorail, and then drive it. It's not worth it. Once I get into my car, I might as well go downtown, drive downtown. And that's the purpose of this whole first mile, last mile initiative.
And then there's a train.
Yes, exactly. So the whole purpose of this first mile, last mile program is to eliminate the need for someone to get into their car to travel to mass transit. It's, again, for providing that kind of bicycle pedestrian mobility. And with our shuttle, it's a form of mass transit that actually connects with the Metrorail. So I'm telling you all this because I want you to, and again, like I said, with the issue that we had earlier, we got 100 emails on that. You had a lot of concerns. We all did, and Francisco, and I know you've gone around and knocked on people's doors. Obviously, if a neighbor goes around and knocks on your door and tells you about something, the chances are that you're going to be alarmed because you're hearing one side of it and perhaps not the full story. So if we want to have an information session on this, yes, William.
I just wanted to, because Councilman Fett had said that people just learned about it because it came out in the paper, right? I have articles from the Miami Herald, the Gazette, and MiamiSprings.com that came out in December of 2019, detailing this project.
That was my
Plus,
question.
it was discussed at a
That was my
council
question,
meeting also. And the other thing I wanted to mention, Councilman Vasquez asked me on some of the ridership that the shuttle bus right now to the Hialeah Metrorail station. Okay, just to give you an example, in February of I took a month before the pandemic and the current month.
Sure,
because
sure.
In February of 2020, which was right before the pandemic, we had 216 people. This past February 2021, we had 127. So it's starting to
Those are
move
people.
the right direction.
And I can
but
tell you,
that's in a month.
that's in a month. And I can tell you, when we were doing the bike path project, I remember people saying, well, who's going to use, I mean, there's sidewalks. Why would anyone use the bike path? And, they go, how do you know who's going to use it? And we go, we don't know. I mean, there's no way to knock on people's doors and, and say this, but obviously it's pretty obvious that if there's a decent, nice, walkable way to get around the community, that people will use it. And I can tell you that a lot of communities that didn't have bike and pedestrian paths in place, once the pandemic hit, they were struggling. It's a big thing on their agenda now because they realized the importance of, luckily we were way ahead of the curve and we had already even, recently opened the Westward Drive bike path, which is just really, it glitters at night. It's bright. It's pretty. It's just like diamonds at night. It's something about it that just, I don't know, whenever I pass by there at night, I'm like, wow, this is real pretty, like sparkling diamonds. And that was all, things that were initiated way in the past, not knowing but foreseeing that there is something that these are the kinds of things you provide in a well-rounded community where you're looking ahead and anticipating things to provide us that connectivity, still keep our charm. I've heard that that's going to take away our charm. I don't understand how having access to Metrorail is going to impact the charm of Miami Springs any more than, the pedestrian bridge to the high school has impacted the charm of Miami Springs. But
well, through the chair.
Yes.
The reason I asked William is, I deal with a lot of numbers, right? So it's like, you visualize, and I think you made a very good point of visualizing. You're also saying 150 to 100, 200 people a day are going using this. That's a month. Okay, so there's right. So what is the? Come on up. Come on.
I don't mean to fight this.
No. I want you to express yourself more.
The only reason is because I first read about it when the fire. I was never aware of this in 2019.
Right.
I was never aware, and the people I've spoken to, I'd say they're my neighbors because they're in Quail. But of those people that I actually signed a petition, that I actually know, or maybe a handful, okay? The other 115 people that I've signed, I don't know. Because I'm sure you don't know everybody that lives 2 blocks down from me. I know the people on my block.
Sure.
And there's 6 people on my side and 6 people on the other side. That's 12 people, okay? So it's not that. What I'm saying is it's really Maria's credit. She did a phenomenal job with the bike path. The quality of life of this city right now is much better because we have those bike paths. But the same way...
It wasn't me, it was a committee.
No, but you spearheaded. I know it. I know through John Cavalier and everything, you spearheaded it. So it's not... It was the committee, but you spearheaded. But in keeping that, coming to these meetings, I haven't come in a long time. I served for the city for 20-something years. And it's very educational. I sat here today, and what I'm hearing is crime, all these other problems. And what you're advocating is a similar situation. You're cutting off access. Where's the mobility? You're cutting off access on the sidewalks because it creates problems. And now you're going to create a problem by giving access to the Metrorail that's right next to the Presidente Hotel. The Presidente Hotel. The same people that are causing the problem in this community right now, in Manola and all, you're going to give an access to them.
Francisco, they right now have access on the
And
FEC
right now
tracks.
they have this access to
on
go
the
to
FEC
12th Avenue.
tracks.
They go to 12th Avenue
No, but
if they want to do it
the
legally.
people that you're talking
Yes,
about,
ma'am, I
and they can
understand.
come on the pedestrian bridge to
understand.
Hialeah, except they're not coming.
Okay, but we're doing this for 9 people?
That's the thing is, you could say that with the bike path project. We don't know who would
We
use a
have the
bike path
numbers.
project, and yet we have hundreds.
have the numbers.
No, those are just the
215.
one. Not that you're. I'm sorry. You're very mistaken
You've
on
never
that.
had a
You're
study
talking
done.
You're talking about the people who are so
Okay.
desperate to ride Metrorail that they're willing to sit in a bus in a Miami Springs shuttle, go around Miami Springs for an hour, and then that by no means means a person like myself, who when I was working downtown would have easily walked to the, walked a
Right, right,
mile
I
to
understand.
get there.
I understand.
And so that is to say, these are just people that in our
In all
community
fairness,
that
we
are
don't have studies.
dependent on Metro
We
Rail.
haven't had a study. When we expand
have a
roads,
study for-
when we expand roads, we do traffic counts. We do pedestrian counts. None of that's been done for a $2 million project. None of that's been done to begin with. Okay? And that's the disconcerting thing. People no longer read the paper. Okay? People don't read papers anymore. And the only reason we found it, like I said, is because of the fire. If the fire wouldn't have happened there, I wouldn't have known about it. That's what triggered it. And the SMART plan. Okay, we're going to expand everything. I've been connected with transit for over 30 years. In those 30 years, we've had 2 expansions. We went from the MIC to the airport, and we did the Palmetto extension, 3 miles. The SMART plan doesn't have any money to do what's needed to get people around. The only thing that can move people really is buses, and people don't want buses. And we can't afford rail. Unfortunately, that's the reality of it. If in 35 years we add a little bit more than 3 miles,
How would
after
you?
the half penny sales tax passed, we added Mick Arlington. So I'm not here to confront anything. I'm just trying to open up your eyes and see that you're potentially creating the same problem you have in Manola and you have on La Villa. You're creating the same potential.
We already have that ability for that problem to exist,
If you
and
make
it
it
doesn't.
easier, you're going to create
All
more
right,
problems.
let's do this.
The hotels, for instance. Let me for a minute. When those hotels were approved, the majority of them, we didn't. You're talking about the future. We didn't envision what was going to happen. Lejeune Road closed down because of the widening of Lejeune Road for the basically the auto center. All those hotels were wiped out, and they had to relocate somewhere. And the problem started there. You go to right now. You go to Miami Shores. The closing of the roads was because of crime that they experienced. That they were having people cut through and all, and that's why they started closing. If you go to the Gables, okay, they're doing the same thing. And what are we doing? We're opening up. We fought corrections so that people wouldn't cut across our neighborhood, both VG and Miami Springs. And we're giving an invitation if there's a benefit for the people of Miami Springs, I'm 100% for it. I love this community. I wouldn't want to do anything that would be against this community. I want this community to continue to thrive and for people to have a good quality of life and benefit from things that fulfill their lives and make it easier for. That bridge is not going to make it easier for you. I've worked downtown. I didn't use Metro Rail, and it's not because
Why wouldn't you?
I can walk.
Why wouldn't you?
I walk. Why? Because it wasn't practical for me.
No, because what?
Because if I had a meeting at 2:00 where my kid called in sick and I took Metro Rail, I was stuck downtown.
By the way, Francisco and I know each other from Metro
but-
Rail.
but-
We've worked in Metro Rail. I mean, Miami-Dade Transit
For many years.
together.
No,
so.
but the reason I didn't, and honesty, is as a parent and as a person that had many
Didn't-
responsibility. If my kid was taking ballet or gymnastics, Metro Rail didn't work because I could take.
Tell you
the-
that
the
many
station-
students do use Metro Rail, including my daughter, who went to Mast Academy on Key Biscayne, and every afternoon she would ride, and her friends from Miami Springs would ride because they get a free pass, and they would ride Metro Rail home, and they would cross the FEC tracks, and I was always like, and that's how they would walk home, and I have numerous photos of that happening here. The connectivity that you're talking about, even if Metro Rail, the SMART plan, let's say they push it under, you know where you can connect with Metro Rail right now? What's on our fingertips is the Alapata area, which is growing, which is going to be the new Wynwood. Alapata area, Jackson Memorial Hospital and the whole Civic Center, downtown Miami, from there to Miami Beach, because that is going to happen. I think Rogelio agrees that's going to happen. The connectivity to Miami Beach is going to happen because Miami Beach just isn't going to allow any more traffic there. From there, you can go to Brickell. This is without any changes. From Brickell, you can continue on to Coconut Grove, which has a Metro Rail station. So Brickell has a Metro Rail station in their city. Coconut Grove has one. Coral Gables has one. South Miami, all of those, and down to Dadeland. That's without any improvement in the SMART plan. With nothing, even if they shove everything else, that allows us with that accessibility, which is already the issue that you're concerned with. And this is my, and we'll have an information center to make sure that, sessions so that everyone can, I'll talk to William afterwards about, how we can provide that. And then at the next meeting, we'll come and, make sure we all agree with how we do that. But, the issue that you're talking about already exists. It's the FEC track and people are crossing it all the time. And the issue with
Been
crime.
there 35 years.
Exactly.
And there's never been a need for it.
There's always been a need for it. I'm telling you my personal needs for it. Right. And there's a lot of other people that would have a need if it was available.
I'll give you a perfect example.
However,
and I'll leave.
What you're talking about of the availability of crime has always been there for 30 years too. And it hasn't been crossing the FEC track, the Hialeah, the high school overpass and the Canal Street. That's always been there for 30 years too. And it hasn't occurred. Okay. So if we're talking about there's not a need for that access, there hasn't been the concern of the crime hasn't occurred in 30 years. You can speak to some of the
policemen and they'll tell you differently.
I have.
Mr. Bess?
Well, I through the chair, I did mention this earlier that I have received numerous phone calls, among them several police officers, some with the county and some here right in Miami Springs, and also some real estate people who have some concerns about property values in the area and stuff. This is the feed I'm getting. I'm not saying I'm on one side of the fence or the other on the
let's
issue.
Do this. Let's go ahead and
I think the info session makes an awful lot of sense.
Session. We'll at the next council meeting. We'll bring back to the council what the suggestion is for an info session.
Yes,
I appreciate that. I appreciate, like I said, I'm not here.
I know, Fred.
I'm just saying, I'm trying to protect the city from its own. Okay, and you have to look.
Remember the last big project?
Okay.
The Springview Elemental. That almost divided our city.
Okay. But here again, if you're looking into the future, the work environment. The workplace has changed forever.
Oh, yeah.
You're never going to see the traditional work week anymore. It's going to be different. It's going to be a hybrid. The demand for going downtown, which I would have hoped it would have happened in our career, where we would go to the office maybe 2 days a week instead of all 5 days, it's changed. Ridership will continue to go down. It's not going to go up. It's not going to get better. People get the perfect example of that is being in transit. I know we're a multicultural society. Okay. We have people from all over the world come here and live here. And in most of those places in Latin America, South America, it's a privilege to have a car. Only the wealthy can have a car. You come here, and if you can buy a jalopy for $800 and put gas in it, you're never going to take transit again because it's a status symbol from where they came. And that's the problem. Transit works in different environments. You have to cater transit to the customer you're serving. And if you don't realize those customs, you're never going to succeed.
Except that the county is going to
It's
make
not
it
gonna happen.
necessary because they're going to decrease parking availability and parking rates. Do you know how much it costs right now
I
to
know,
park a flat rate in Miami Beach?
I know it's disgusting.
$20
on
flat
Miami
rate
Beach.
to park on Miami Beach to go to the beach. And if you're a family,
You
if
get
I
a
really want to
fountain
pay
blue.
that,
You get a fountain blue.
that public parking. This
It's
is public parking.
$20.
I know.
But what I'm saying is that's
So you may
different
have
when
a
it comes
car,
to
you may
Metro
be
Rail.
able to afford the gas, but very few families are going to say, I'm going to pay $20.
But you can't take Metro
So-
Rail to it.
Through the chair, relative to your point a minute ago that the ridership is going down and stuff, the county, how about this? Was a year and a half, 2 years ago? They put 400 brand new buses on the streets. Remember that?
Yeah.
400.
Didn't increase it. Didn't increase it.
All right, so we're in agreement then, Francisco, thank
No,
you.
I
know
thank you
that
your time.
Have, the best interest of the city at heart as
all
as
of
do
you.
all of our
As
residents,
all
and
of
as
you.
do all,
As
we're
all of
very
you.
lucky that all our residents do, too. So we'll bring that back for an information session.
And one other thing, I just hope that you realize that if a previous council voted for something and the event they made a mistake, people make mistakes all the time. I don't think it's creating a precedent to overturn something that is blatantly wrong or even wrong. Okay? Currently today, at the national level, we have a situation where there's a difference in belief. I'm not saying one's right, one's wrong. One administration thought that the solution to it was built this huge wall to keep everybody out. And what was the first thing they did, the new administration? Defund it. I don't think any less of the new administration as of the last
I'm
one.
going to say a point on that. How do we, as the residents, benefit from this back and forth and lack
No,
of?
I'm saying
we're
if
the
you know you're
losers.
doing
The real
something
losers
wrong.
are us that are,
But
the
what I'm saying is,
representation that we have on both sides. That it's just this back and forth.
I don't think it's wrong if you know something wasn't done properly, and you find it. Stand
We'll
for your
provide an
beliefs and correct
information
it.
Session
Yes, ma'am. That's what I'm
Thank
saying.
you,
Thank you, ma'am.
Francisco. Thank you
Thank
so
you all.
much.
Thanks, Fernando.
Thank you.
Francisco, I mean, sorry.
Okay. Request by the next agenda item is item number 12C, and it's request by, I'm sorry, no. It's a discussion on setting the date for the millage rate meeting in July. That, I want to say, is a very quick meeting.
Yep.
It's basically, I don't know, we're done in 15 minutes max. And it's just, all we do at that meeting is we agree on what the millage rate cannot exceed, the level by which we cannot exceed.
Cap.
Millage cap. And then we start the budget meetings in August, and we know that no matter how we work with the budget, we can never exceed this much.
Through the chair, don't we generally start this or generally have these meetings around the 28th, 29th, right in there? Eric, is that?
Yes.
Yes. It's usually the last Thursday of July.
Okay,
Usually,
and I'm going to
we had
be,
it. We had it originally scheduled for July 22nd, but there's some. I know the
I'm
mayor's
going to be out of town the last 2 weeks of July for
so we
family
tried
events,
to do July 14th,
weddings that were postponed because of the pandemic. So, but if we can agree, my understanding is it shouldn't be the last week of July because that didn't give you as much time, right, William?
Right,
Before we tried to do it the third week of July.
And I can't do the last week of
If
July.
it can be the
Okay,
third week in
so-
July, it would be great. Third week.
Third week in July, I'll be out. You won't be
I
here
won't
either?
be here from the 11th forward to the end of the month.
From the 11th of July forward? Okay, anybody else? Because I was thinking of the 14th, which is a Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm not here.
You're not here.
Is it possible to have somebody? I'm just putting it as an option. I'm not asking anybody
This is what I
to
was
give up
going
their
through.
vacation, but
About July
is
6th
it
or
possible
7th?
to have anybody on Zoom at that meeting since it's
My
only 15
understanding
minutes?
is it's
Yes.
possible to have one,
No.
Heidi, or all of us, or more than one.
No, you can, as long as you have a quorum in person,
Which
you
is
can
3.
have 2 of you virtually.
I would need 3 of you present.
Three
Correct.
people present and one out.
Well, no, 2. I mean,
Up to
3
2 can be
yes.
out. We need 3 people physically
Present,
here.
Physically here.
Well,
So you're talking the week of July
So you can have
19th?
2 people out.
Okay,
No, no.
okay.
Who
That's
can
right,
be
there's
here
5 of
in
us.
person on July
count.
22nd.
I'm
July
counting 4.
22nd, I can be here.
I can be here.
Who else?
Right
We
here.
need another one.
Well,
Hey,
can
right
as well.
here.
You
I can be here on the
Physically?
22nd.
Be here.
Okay. So
Through the
that's
chair?
3.
Okay, so if Councilwoman Bravo and I do virtually, we can still vote.
Yes.
Virtually, we can
Okay.
still vote.
22 then?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
What,
could do
what
the
day of
22nd.
July 22nd. It's a
I can do the 22nd. yes.
Thursday.
Thursday.
Is that okay with you?
Can we? You want to do this maybe the last week? I mean, we could do it in June.
It
No,
can't
it
be
has
in
to be in
June.
July.
It can't be in July.
No,
Is
I
there
don't
a
think
month?
gives time for.
Yeah.
It's
He
too
needs
early.
He needs
Oh,
to know
I
what it
see.
is
Yeah.
to prepare.
But he needs it
Got
for
you.
the
budget.
budget going forward, for the proposed budget, right?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll do Zoom for the
What
22nd.
is, what day of the week is that?
Thursday.
A Thursday, the 22nd, is that
Thursday.
okay?
So you're
I'm-
keeping
I
in
can be
line
here.
with
I'm
what it's
here.
always been.
And it has to be at 17:01, right?
Yes.
Is
by,
it
by the charter. Yeah.
Well, it has to be what?
1 minute after 5 p.m. 1701.
1700 hours.
Roger that, sir.
1702. Okay, got it.
So that, just to clarify then.
You guys are going to be on vacation.
Councilwoman Bravo and I will do it virtually. We can still vote. The other three will be
I'm in
here. It's a
town.
very
I'm here.
quick
Yeah, that's a
meeting.
good, through the chair, that's a very good point that Eddie just made about people being present, because I thought what I was hearing initially was that only 3 people had to be here. And sometimes that meeting typically lasts 5 minutes, maybe 10. But on certain occasions over the years, I note that there's been a lot of differences of opinion on which way to go on the millage, and there's discussion on this. So that can last a little longer. And I think it's very important that all 5 members
And to Councilman Best's credit, he always works to get us down, work that millage down.
you'll see what I do on the 22nd. I'm not going to say that now. You're right, Maria.
Okay. Is there anything else? All right, then.
I
So
have no
we're
report,
agreed
Mayor.
on June 22nd. What time is that then? When are we?
5:01.
5:01.
5:01.
I'll send out an invite tomorrow, so you'll get that in your
Meeting is-
calendars.
It's in the
I'm sorry?
charter.
Do it here?
Yes, it'll be here. Yes, yes.
The council chambers. I mean.
Okay, so reports from our esteemed city attorney.
No report this evening.
Okay, city manager.
No, Mayor, just the ongoing vaccines at the senior center, at the community center. We're doing the second dose of Pfizer, and we're doing single dose Johnson & Johnson. This week will be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, and the same next week. And then that should be it for a while. We've seen the numbers of people really go down. I mean, last week there was one day where I don't think they did 25 people.
What a shame.
Day, so it's kind of
Yeah.
dying down.
What, as far as food drives, are we going to have any?
No, I'm working with Brian Avila's office to see if we can get something with Farm Share, the people that were doing it before. So I haven't heard anything. I'll reach out to her again tomorrow. But she was supposed to be looking into something for us.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, reports from Vice Mayor Best.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple things. Since we were just talking about the vaccines scheduling and stuff, I guess so everybody heard that that outfit, pharmaceutical outfit in Maryland, came out with a new vaccine. And I suppose they're going to be ready to rifle out 100 million doses in July, right out of the gate. And then probably it increased from there. I forget the name of it. I can't think. It's on the tip of my tongue, but you can see it in the news, though. So that could be another possibility for us. I mean, it's. I'd like to thank staff, particularly William and Omar and Caitlin and everything for the wonderful setup that they gave us out there for Memorial Day and our ability to pull that off. It's always a great feeling to get out there on these particular days, Memorial Day and Veterans Day, and talk about things that we don't normally talk about. And it's just good for the community, and it was pretty well attended, I might say. Last week ago, Saturday, I had the opportunity, the pleasure actually, of the proclamation that the mayor put together for Father Alfaro at Blessed Trinity. Councilman Vasquez and I went over and presented it to him right after Mass in front of close to 450 people. Mm-hmm. It was very, very well attended, and he sends his abundant thanks to you for that. By the way, I want you to know. I want the people to know that. Jim Fulton, from the Boy Scouts, he was here earlier tonight, right? What a great guy. He's been doing scouting forever in this town that I've known of. And for him to be here tonight and for us to be in the presence of, well, Vic, if your son had been here, we would have had 5 Eagle Scouts in the room. There was 4 at that, but his presence was, and that's just big. And he made a very humble request for if we could help him out a little bit with the summer camp this year. I think we ought to be all over that myself. I guess we can
call him,
speak to the manager. I asked Jim before he left the well, what kind of money he was looking for, and I passed it on to William. So that information is.
Do we know how much we've?
Is it more than we've given in the past?
Well, I don't think we've ever given him anything.
Huh?
I don't think we've given the Boy Scouts anything.
He said that we have.
In the past, he told me that the city had helped him with some of his summer camp.
Oh, really?
This
I
is,
don't
by the
remember.
way, this is James's second iteration.
Yeah.
He had another history with the Scouts before, and he came back
Oh
again.
gosh, a 334 is a second deal.
Yeah,
I
the
think
second
what he
round.
needs
Thank
is,
you, thank
he's
you,
talking about.
Councilman Best, for remembering that you had requested that. Is this something we can do by consent agenda?
He's talking
Just-
about. He's talking about $300 or $400.
He was talking. He said 250. He said 250, 300. I think we ought to give him 5.
Is that something that we can do by consent agenda,
Consensus on
Heidi?
what you
or-
want to.
What?
Let's
Well,
give
the
500.
question that should be asked, I suppose, right now is where we at with our
Oh, you still have a lot of money in your
Well,
council
we have-
because we'll end up rolling that over if we don't use it. Obviously, into the
well, it
fund.
goes back to the
I,
About
you guys think
for-
500 is? I mean, look at this.
For
These are
5
these,
Eagle Scouts. I
well,
think
yeah,
that's-
and others. I think they're
there's
all
5
going.
Eagle Scouts
Yeah, that's
of
great.
500.
Give 'em a
That's
100
most
for
of the
Eagle
most of the
Scouts.
younger
They'll-
ones that are going. To
They'll
summer camp.
freak. Pardon the
Okay,
expression.
if we can
Some of
do
the
that
Eagle
with-
Scouts go to.
Is that consent agenda
Yes.
to
Yes.
authorize?
You guys all right with
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up for the group to thank you
In
for that,
consent
guys.
agenda, do we
I
have
think Jim will
consensus?
tremendously appreciate that. So I guess we leave it that William, you contact him or okay.
Yeah, we'll.
Excellent. Okay. Mayor, thanks very much. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, Councilman.
Wait.
Oh.
Jose Fuente's dad.
Yes.
I understand that the wake is tomorrow night. Is that correct? At 7:00 at the Rivero Funeral Home?
Tuesday.
It's the one right here.
Tuesday. I thought it was Tuesday, and the
Yes.
funeral's
Burial
Wednesday,
is
right?
Wednesday.
The funeral.
That's what I read.
Yes.
Mhm.
I just wanted to mention that to those that might attend. I think I might go by for the waking. I'm not going to go for the next day.
That's the one. The funeral.
It's-
home right here by
it's-
Elvis
yeah.
Trophy, right?
Yeah, it's right there on the corner, isn't it? Yes. Yeah. And what's it, 7:00 or something? You sent us something on this.
Yeah, it starts at 5.
5 to 7. West 9th. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry.
Thank you. Councilman Fahet?
For the motion.
I just want to thank staff for the plan that you guys came up with for those street closures. That was wonderful, and just thanks to you all. I know it's kind of late, and I appreciate all the hard work that you guys all put in. Thank you.
Councilman Vasquez?
Yes. Just the organizer side in me that I've been doing for 40 years gnaws at me in terms of some little organizing things. But anyway, I'd like to give a little thought to how we can stimulate our advisory boards, and so I will take on a responsibility to give some thought and bring back to council some thoughts on this. I think it's great that some of them are working great, and don't mess up what's working well. But we should have a sort of across the board sense, and not wait for them to kind of fall by the wayside a little bit before we have to come back and say, "Hey, you guys have been meeting for 5 years." So I'll give that some thought. Secondly, way before any discussions of the parade, 4th of July parade, my family have made some decisions. So I'm not going to be here for the parade, Bob. Don't hold that against me. It's nothing.
Did you mention?
I'm just messing with you. But I would have loved to be here. I would have loved to get wet. I don't care. I'm not. I wouldn't
gonna go
duck
get
out
wet
on
somewhere else.
Morningside.
Yeah.
No, I heard Bob mention the other day something at our American Legion meeting about people ducking out. They don't want to get wet.
I think Morningside is. They do Morningside. I think.
You want to block off
Once you get
Morningside.
hit by the
Go
first
around
water
it.
balloon, it doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
It's like,
And just lastly, I want to join my colleague, Walter Faget, and thanking you guys. This is first time I heard about what was happening in Manola Drive. And really, they called me, and I was like, wow. I called William. I said, and I live De Leon. I went to De Leon a couple of weeks ago before the last meeting, and I just happened to be taking some pictures, and I met the ladies that are 632.
Yeah.
It's a grandmother, mother, and daughter, and we had a very pleasant conversation. I got a really sense of this, and I'm like, wow. And I'm like 5 blocks down.
Wow.
And didn't know about these things. So appreciate your thoughts and diligence on this. William especially,
Yep.
Omar, not Omar, Public Works. Last. Quickly moving on that. And before we know it, we had, 5 of these. And I think they're going to be very appreciative. In fact, Ms. Nunez had told me, I don't care. I'll give up a piece of my land if that's the issue. So that's why I knew she was going to be with this, because the experiences that she has had and the other neighbors there, it's just incredibly terrible. And that's, I'm not a person for generally building walls, but what he was saying about North Shore and other places, I remember the first time I saw that there, looking for a house, and it was years ago. I said, wow, these people like close off the middle of the block. It was like one block here, and then you couldn't get to the next block. I think we're on a good track with that. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. All right. I just want to remind everyone about the FDOT Northwest 36th Street
Yes.
corridor. And again, this is going to be one of those things where the community says, we didn't know about it. All we can do is try.
Mayor, I'm sorry.
To
Did you let Councilwoman Bravo speak?
I am so sorry.
I didn't want you to get going
Thank you.
and then forget her.
Sorry, you forgot me.
You gotta say something.
No, it's fine.
Yeah,
I
it's
was gonna
open.
let her finish and then.
You get the last word.
No. All right. So, thank you, William, for always answering all of my questions. I know I drive you crazy, but that's the way I feed my mind for clarity, and you have to go through it with me.
With all of us,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
What
And we each have our own style.
We should call ourselves like the 5, or like Cash 3. It's Cash 5 for you. And Tammy, always with a smile. Everybody's so welcoming. I can't believe it's what, April, May, June, 2 months already. We've been sitting here together. Yeah. And it's been quite the experience. So I just wanted to, I know that William, you're gonna get back to us, on the fence height to see if, what regulation there is there. If we could go higher, we'll go higher. We're already at it. And the foliage will look even more beautiful. You're gonna look into legal for the CCTV cameras to see if that's a possibility. And I think that would be a great option. For the bridge going out to the metro. That would be a good option there too. Should obviously we move forward. Definitely, I'm on it. On giving the Boy Scouts a donation. My husband hears me. I say no. He's not going to do anything else for me. So, make sure that they get their $500. That is the future. And these little young men, they're not the standard. They have this maturity level on them. They're seeing things from a different point of view, and that's what's going to get society through the future. And I don't think I have anything else to say. Thank you, Walter, for bringing up and listening to all of our residents with, they're scared with the bridge, but hopefully with the informational session, we can get some clarity and maybe some options where they'll feel better. Maybe with a little camera or something that provides some surveillance so they know that we're protecting them as well. We're providing safety, but safety for the residents that live across the street and a couple blocks down whatsoever. Vasquez, thank you for your organizational thoughts, keeping us there on track. You always have something to say with a smile there and to the point.
I'll stew for a while, but I'll say.
Yeah. And Heidi, thank you for always being there. And Miss Erica, always available. And I'm just appreciative of our group. And that's all.
You didn't thank Bob.
Bob, thank you for being my neighbor and saying hi to me when I'm
Maria,
cleaning the driveway.
She's my neighbor now. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you.
You know that I love him. Yeah.
His wife is a doll.
Yeah.
Okay, so and I'm sorry, Councilwoman Bravo. I don't know.
that's
I
okay.
went that way and then I meant to go back. And
It's
totally
late.
forgot.
We're tired.
I wanted to remind everyone about the importance. Please get the message out because it'll be another thing like this. Like, unless, some resident is going and knocking on people's doors, there's just so much that you can do to get information out. But the 2 FDOT Northwest 36th Street corridor, it's really important for our residents to get involved now at the study phase and give their opinion. And if they're for it, they can, let them know that they're for it too.
Sure.
And with that, I have nothing else. Thank you, Vice Mayor, for the Memorial Day ceremony. I heard a lot of, I was out of town, but I heard a lot of really great things about it. It was, as usual, top notch, and yes, something that our residents really look forward to those kinds of annual gatherings in our city of, and somehow with Vice Mayor Best, they're very consistent. So you know that it's going to be a quality product. Yes. All right. With that, this meeting is adjourned.
You did have a full speech at the
Thank
memorial.
you.
I forgot to mention that.
Same here, Bob. Say hi to Claire.